It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Yes, another 3-hour marathon. But, of course, we're going to talk when we get Glenn Fleischman here from Glenn.fun and Macworld Magazine. We've got Jeff Jarvis from the City University of New York, Aunt Pruitt from Hands-On Photography. Stacy's on assignment at CES. She'll join us Sunday on Twit. Get ready, everybody. Fasten your seatbelts. You might want to go to the bathroom before the show begins. Twig is next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. This is Twig. This Week in Google, episode 697, recorded Wednesday, January 4th, 2023. Don't track me, bro. Thanks for listening to this show as an ad-supported network. We are always looking for new partners with products and services that will benefit our qualified audience. Are you ready to grow your business? Reach out to advertise@twit.tv and launch your campaign now. It's time for Twig This Week in Google. First show of 2023. I am back from the tropics. I bought this hat on the beach. You like it? Stacy's not here. She's at CES, but Glenn Fleischman.
Because of that hat. She knew you'd be wearing that hat. She said, I'm not going to be associated with it. I'm going to be nowhere near it.
Glenn Fleischman is filling in. Yay. It's great to see you, Glenn, from Glenn.fun. Jeopardy champion.
Wore this shirt in honor of Ant being on as well. Should hope so.
It's got a camera. It's got box cameras on it. It's
lots of cameras.
Very cool. Very cool.
Favorite gift of 2022.
Ant. Oh, you got it. You got it for Christmas. How nice.
My birthday. I've been wearing it for months.
Oh, okay. Aunt Pruitt is also here. He's our favorite gift of every year. Hands-on photography, community manager at Twit's Discord and the club.
Maybe, sir.
You had a lot of help questions over the holidays, I think. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I saw that, but we were off. so I am just now trying to get to those and address them. But
if you had any problems during the holidays, tough luck, buddy. How would you like a nice Hawaiian punch?
I think I've answered everyone.
Also with us, Mr. Jeff Jarvis. Wait a minute.
Hello. Happy New Year.
I need the prompter for this one. He's the director of the Townite Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at City University of New York. Hello, Jeff.
Oh, welcome back.
Did you have a good holiday?
Yeah.
Anything special?
Also, during the holiday, enjoyed watching the year-end compilation, which
was fun.
Many laughs.
Yeah, you and Glenn were going back and forth on the old Mastodon.
Yep.
About that. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
We haven't used the moral panic thing since. I think we should institute that.
Well, Mr. Pruitt's here. He's got it. He's got his finger poised
moral panic
over the moral panic button. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere.
There it is. Oh, yeah.
This is the one. No. This is the one where I go dancing across the screen. Talking.
Oh, we need that one. Yeah,
that's built in to the show itself. We have to save that.
There it is.
I got a bad feeling about this.
There we go.
Wow. Did Anthony Nielsen do that? Must have. That's it. That looks like
that's the
Anthony
one he
Nielsen
put on the track.
Yeah.
That and more in the year-end show. You still watch it, folks.
Oh, yeah. It's good. It's good all year.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Stacy's at CES, but that's the good news is she's going to report back on Sunday. She'll be on the big show This Week in Tech, and I'm trying to get her to file something from CES for our brand new Ask the Tech Guy show, which makes its debut at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, the replacement for the radio show. And I was hoping there are a few things. She said, "Can you give me an assignment?" So I said, "Well, there are a few things, that are interesting at CES. Maybe this one, the LOL button." So this is a device created by just some guy that won't let you use LOL in a text message unless you mean it. You actually have to laugh into this LOL box.
I can appreciate
Is technology gone too far?
That's cute.
This is.
Yeah.
I always use LLOL, which is if I literally laughed out loud, I will send
okay.
LOL.
Well, Brian Moore has made a device which will allow you to do that. He posted a video on something called Twitter. Don't know what that is on Tuesday. He says, I remember when LOL meant laugh out loud, a real chortle. Now it's meaningless, dulled down to the mere acknowledgement of a message. So as an artist who likes to play technology, this is an article from Motherboard on Vice. He decided to build the box. It listens for some form of laughter. Is there actually some significant AI in here? You can't just go, hey, hey, hey. You gotta really laugh, and then a message will come on saying "LOL verified," and then you're allowed. You're allowed.
Does it cost you $8 a month to use though?
No, not like the blue check. No, actually, I don't think he's selling these. But he says he's gonna put the hardware design up and open source it. Anybody wants to build it themselves, including the software.
Do you remember the story of David Cameron with the Levinson inquiry and LOL?
No, what was that?
He would send emails to Rebecca Brooks, who was number two to Murdoch, and is now back high in the firm after she managed to do her apology tour. And he would always send his emails with LOL, thinking it meant lots of love.
Yeah, I remember thinking that too back in the days on the AIM. What was that? Yeah, AOL Instant Messenger. I remember seeing that from my best friend back in the day. It's like, why does he keep saying lots of love?
I like you too, but geez,
dude, I mean, we're buddies and all this
know each
shit.
other?
That's a fun new. There's a thing called a mondegreen, right?
Oh yeah. Excuse me while I kiss this guy.
Yeah, which are misheard lyrics.
Gotcha.
But now we can have misheard. What do you call it? An acronym? Emoticons? Misheard somethings. Yeah. Here's a product brought to us earlier today on Windows Weekly. This is also from CES, called the Mutalk. This is from a company called ShiftAll.net. It is a microphone you strap on no, that's not it. What's that, John?
That's ominous.
There's apparently
He's
a
lost
timer.
patience with us. It's counting down. We have 14 minutes and 10 seconds left until John explodes.
Evil
Somewhere in
genius.
this building.
Or maybe that's how long I have to wear the hat. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's
Can you pick up my screen, or is that not available? There it is. I have a button I can press now. They've given me a button. Yeah, watch.
You're in control.
I'm in control. Look at that. Whoa. This is the Mutalk. It's a leakage voice suppression microphone you strap on like a feed bag.
What? Are you serious?
Oh, I thought this was a cow translator. You strap it on a cow and
It looks like you could fill it with oats and you give it to your horse, but no.
I want to know what the cow's saying.
The idea is it picks up and amplifies your voice, but no one outside can hear it. It's for use in VR. So if you don't look like enough of a dork wearing your headset and
oh my God,
you can put this on.
Just go into a padded room and be done with it.
That's what my wife has a bone anchored hearing aid, and it's got Bluetooth connectivity, so she can hear calls in her head, but she doesn't have a sub-vocalization chip yet. So
is that wild?
The calls actually are directly transmitted to her.
Is it like a cochlear implant?
It's similar to that, but she's lacking the bones in her inner ear on one side, so it actually it vibrates the cilia inside your ear, so nobody can hear what it's saying, and so she can take a call or listen to music in her head.
That's cool.
Oh,
I can do that with my hearing aids. It'll pair to the phone.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, it's a little weird because I'm talking and nobody knows what the hell's going on.
It's good. It's good.
I
can hear voices in my head too sometimes without any Bluetooth. That's the scary part.
No Bluetooth involved. Let's see what else. I can't wait to get Stacy. I have a whole section as usual with CES. 90% of what gets showed never emerges. Right. Here's the Bird Buddy, a smart hummingbird feeder that will photograph and identify 350 bird species, which is weird because it's a hummingbird feeder.
You know who'd love that? Craig Newmark.
How many?
Craig Newmark, but he loves pigeons.
Craig.
Pigeons.
The thing is, I don't get it because it's a hummingbird feeder. What feeds at hummingbirds? Not pigeons. Nothing but hummingbirds.
Do you know the worst fact I learned over the pandemic? It relates to hummingbirds. Had I already told you this fact? It's the worst thing.
Well, I don't know it. What is it?
About 70% of a hummingbird's diet is spiders.
What? Really?
Yep. They mostly eat spiders and they supplement with
Nothing
nectar.
wrong with that, my friend.
No, it's great. But you look at them a little different. You're like, oh man, they will hover in midair and go, and just suck.
Okay.
Do they do it with their tongue?
Its web.
Or they do it with their
they
sharp
use their
beak? They
It's
spear
just, you
it.
don't think of them. They're vicious little birds. They're beautiful. But now I think of them a little bit more dinosaur-like.
Well, that's what I think about birds is they're dinosaurs. And you know, they can be, you know, vicious. I didn't know this. It is a hummingbird feeder. There are 350 different kinds of hummingbirds.
Well, there you go. You just don't run out of hummingbirds all year long.
So you'll know exactly what kind of hummingbird is sticking its beak down your nozzle.
You know, I guess that does beat my idea because currently I set a tripod out on mine.
There are cameras, maybe you
birds.
use them, that are for taking pictures of wildlife, right? Mm-hmm. They're weather impervious and they detect motion. And do you ever use that, Ant, or you just?
No, I don't use that. But my neighbors back in Carolinas, they would use those little cameras for deer. And you know, we had a family of deer in the backyard, so we set one up back there.
Tall rats.
Every time they walked by, it took some, you know, like little 12 megapixel photos of them.
And then they shoot.
I get an alert whenever animals come to my porch. Now I live in, you know, relatively urban Seattle, and then it's like there's an animal at your porch. It's like, oh, and I look, it's just the regular, it's a Apple's HomeKit thing, and I'll be like, what animal? It's like, oh, it's a cat. Like, oh, and occasionally it's like, oh, that's a rat on the porch. Okay, well, thank you for letting me know that.
It's the UPS guy. You know, it's hard to tell sometimes.
It's got little vulpine features.
Roku, these are all CES stories. The show formerly known as the Consumer Electronics Show, which at some point, for some reason, the CEA, the Consumer Electronics Association, decided should not be called this Consumer Electronics Show, but just it's CES, like Elvis. It's just CES. Doesn't stand for anything. Roku has announced it's going to make TVs.
Oh.
So it's partnered for a long time with TCL to put Roku in TVs. In fact, I bought my mom one because that way it was easy for her. They're cheap, yeah.
Yes.
Who's going to make them for them? They're not going to make them. Does it say?
One wouldn't think, but it says this is from CNET, Roku's first foray, as opposed to June foray, into TV manufacturing comes on the heels of successful partnerships with TCL, Hisense, and Sharp. Let me see if they mention. Oh,
it says they have I see. Yeah, I just got my first little Roku box for a long time. I had one years ago when they first came out and, moved on to other stuff. But I got a lot of the micro ones for a guest room TV. And I was actually really impressed. Yeah, it's very high quality. It's better at a lot of things than the Apple TV for sure. And they've got their own programming now and some other stuff. It's a funny company. It was spun off out of Netflix when they worried about, I guess, HathiTrust or something many years ago.
Roku was spun out of Netflix?
Yeah, it was.
I never knew that.
The founder, really interesting, very technology guy. And he suddenly had to be like a CEO. Anthony Wood. Yeah, he's still in charge. And am I remembering that right? I think they were originally a
spin-off left Netflix with 15% equity in Roku.
Yeah, that's right. I know, isn't that a funny origin story? Because you're like,
sold its investment in 2009.
It explains why every Roku remote has a Netflix button on it.
It might be
sure
that's
part of the deal. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Anthony was. I remember seeing him at a CES, in fact, back in 2004 or something, and he was very excited about some stuff that felt like it was way ahead of the market, way ahead of the big consumer players, and they're still keeping up, which is impressive, given that they're competing against Amazon and Apple and some other very very large.
I think they win
companies
against Amazon anyway because they do the same thing without all the Amazon ads. I'm actually now tired of my Amazon, the Echo shows, which have a screen, because they'll show up one of your pictures and then an ad, and then one of your pictures and then an ad, and one of your pictures and then an ad. They spent
that's annoying
all last month promoting Avatar's, the new Avatar movie, and they had an Avatar. Say, hey, just tell A-Word that you want the Avatar theme. And all that, and it was like, no, and that's the same with Fire TV. It's just an advertisement.
I thought you were talking about Ant for a second when you said A-Word. I'm like, you call him? That doesn't seem.
Hey, A-Word.
A-Word didn't seem. Get me. I need one of these avatars.
So you used to go to CES, Glenn. Have you stopped now?
I this embarrassing thing I managed because I've always been a freelancer and never a staff member. I self-funded one trip there, got footsore over a few days, saw a bazillion things, and never went back. And I enjoyed it, but I've never had a coverage need. And nobody was like, "Yeah, we're going to spend $8,000 to send you to CES." So I just
it's expensive. Aunt loves CES.
And
every year you ask us, can I go? And we say every year we say no.
Love it. I crowdfunded it one year. The other times I went as freelance with Tech Republic. And
that's great.
I freaking love it. Someone asked me about it on twit.social here recently. And the best analogy I could give is, for me, it's a lot of work when you go there. It's a lot of walking. But I absolutely love that adrenaline I get from just trying to find the good stuff to share with everybody, get that packaged up and shipped out, and then going and doing it all over again the next morning. It's about like people that love to go to the gym, going to the gym and lifting weights and running. There's a little bit of ache and pain that comes with that, but it hurts good, and that's how I equate CES in my experience.
And that's weird. That's just weird.
Yes, I am.
No, I agree.
Yes.
I liken it to going to New York City. Every time I go to New York, the energy, I get excited. And you're right. The same thing CES.
Instead of smelling that convention floor carpet, you just smell urine. And
there's odors associated with both, but there's an excitement. There's an energy there, isn't there?
Yeah. And then in the evening, once I'm done with everything being created and published or whatnot, I go grab my camera and I just go walk some more for the rest of the night. And there's always some beautiful photo opportunities out there, or interesting photo opportunities out there. It is the busiest, 3-4 days for me, and I probably average about 3 hours of sleep, if that, and I feel great.
I'm trying to make you feel very guilty for not sending him.
And the last time we went was 2020, right before the pandemic.
Right before the pandemic.
And we had a great time, and Ant wore the hell out of me.
Stuff.
And then we'd have dinner, and he'd disappear. And I said, Ant, you're going down and playing poker, aren't you? And he said, no, I'm taking pictures. I was impressed. I was very impressed.
It's funny to go to Las Vegas. That's the only time I've ever been there, and I was like, I looked around, and besides CES, I was like, I don't smoke, I don't gamble. I mean, nothing moral. I just don't really do it. Don't have the knack or vibe. I don't do that other thing you can do in Las Vegas. And I was like, there's not so much here for. There's the shows.
Do you
but
drink?
The shows weren't as big a deal.
Do you drink?
I don't really drink.
Oh, you are a loser. Jeez, Louise.
I don't really drink.
Not
I know,
to go
it's terrible.
to CES with Glenn
No
Fleishman.
sins.
I'll have a half a club soda if you insist.
Half a club soda.
My wife and I realized we're from like 2 generations of teetotalers. So I'm sorry.
All right. I have mixed feelings. As most people will go to CES and I've been for many years, and then Comdex for many years before that. I have mixed feelings about it, and it's almost always a relief not to go. Because you're going to get sick. You didn't get sick, Ann. I was impressed, but you're going to get sick.
I did not, but I have gotten sick in years past.
It's normal.
But when I used to hear folks like you say this about CES, I'm like, what are they talking about? There's no way. But after doing it for a handful of years, I get where you're coming from. It is a grind.
And one of the things you learn is that most of the stuff you're going to see is never going to emerge.
Right.
And that,
it's like looking at concept cars.
It's all, the original idea, I think, of CES was companies go and show vendors, dealers, people are going to sell it, their ideas. And then and if everybody says, oh, that's good, we'll buy 1,000 of them, then they make it. They don't make it until they sell it. And so I think that's one reason a lot of stuff is shown that never comes out. Although with TVs, for instance, and that's one of the big draws of CES, with TVs, those are the big companies, Panasonic, Sharp, Sony, LG, TCL, Hisense. They emerged at CES, took over the Microsoft booth. Hisense did.
That's the thing I miss by not going for sure. Is that you kind of, it's like, was it Akihabara, the street in Japan? People used to, I don't know if you still go, where it's like, you're like, what's coming next? And Wired had its, was it Japanese schoolgirl technology watch for a while, which is like, you're trying to figure out
what the Hirajuku girls carrying.
Yeah. And so I think CES is like a much bigger version of that, but it's like, what are people working on? Like, what are they actually, all around the world, what have they actually put into a product they can show you in a setting? And even if 80% of it doesn't ship, you're like, oh, this is the state of the art. This is all the all the stuff people are working on, which is, I think that's thrilling.
It has also in past years been a showcase for self-driving vehicles, electric vehicles, new to auto technology. Weirdly, Microsoft is there. They've gone back to CES, but as a not as the Windows company or even the Azure company, but as the mobility company, and they're showing car solutions, which is interesting. Sony is not at CES this year. Usually they debut their new TVs. They decided not to. They're going to instead focus on PS2. And it says, with 5. What did I say? PS2. PSVR 2, which is for the PS5. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
And according to The Verge, an electric vehicle that Sony's going to be doing. So cars are very big. So here's what's going to happen, just so you know. Father Robert Ballecer is there. Stacey Higginbotham is there. Scott Wilkinson's not, but his friend Mike Heiss is. We're going to get reports from Scott, Stacey, and Father Robert on Sunday on Ask the Tech Guys, our brand new show. And then Sunday after that, Sunday evening on Twit, Stacey will be our guest. So we will have our CES coverage. Will be on the last day of CES. CES weirdly moved this year to starts tomorrow through Sunday.
Oh.
Yeah, normally it's a week in midweek, but it's weekend.
The holidays on Sunday.
Is that why it was the holiday? They had to push it back. That makes sense. Yeah.
Had to move it around.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I always have a little FOMO. And I'm sure you do too, Ant. We're not there. What's happening?
I remember the days of the video parts of it, including porn and all that.
Oh, yeah, they separated that out. So it's used to be, because it was just VCR, VHS tapes. There would be in the corner of the adult corner of CES. There was just a bunch of VHS tape sellers. And then they separated it to a different venue. In fact, one year I was there with Tech TV, and we had cameras, and we said, let's go over to the, I think it was the Adult Entertainment Expo, they called it. And we went over there with cameras. It was quite embarrassing because I go in the door. Remember, I'm on Tech TV at the time, and one of the cam girls goes, Leo! And comes running over. And I said, stop shooting! Stop shooting! Stop it!
Oh, my gosh.
Turn off the cameras! I ended up making friends with her. I don't know if I should admit this. Not that kind of friend, but I got to know her. She was a fan of Tech TV. And a year later, we did stunts on Tech TV because it was TV, cable TV. And we were going to do a win a date stunt. And we decided, let's use the cam girl. And so it was going to be win a date with I can't remember what her name was, win a date with her. But it was troubling because we had the people on, we had her on a camera, and she kept trying to take off her clothes. You can't do that. You can't.
That kind of cam.
Stop it. Stop it.
It's important to point out that a lot of the innovations in technology started with pornography. You have to realize this. It's like it's always if you're too prudish as a technology related person about it, then you wind up missing out on things. And I remember meeting the Netscape webmaster many years ago, and he told me about being on a panel with somebody from Hustler or some one of those magazines, and was talking about we can't get a 320 by 240 pixel screen doing more than 10 frames per second. She's like, we can sell that. And he's like, oh, that's the future. Like, people will pay for stuff.
But they did also develop the technologies that got a higher resolution faster. I mean, they absolutely drove that whole streaming video market because there was big money in it.
You got to watch certain market segments, even if you're not interested in the products or services offered.
True. Well, the other thing is at NAB, the church piece, the religious broadcasters.
Yeah.
Oh,
huge amounts of smaller technology to try to get them going.
Well, we use TriCaster, and one of their big markets is mega churches.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's also the remote wireless mics. I think churches were big pushers in terms of trying to get the FCC to license that really weird, is a very complicated thing about a carve out with wireless access to prevent interference from like unlicensed purposes. Anyway, because they use wireless mics like crazy throughout urban and suburban areas.
Yeah. Right. So with Broadway.
It's like the scene from Spinal Tap where he's got a wireless guitar pickup and they're at an Air Force base and they keep getting the air traffic controllers on the PA. We've come a long way from cam girls to this Twitch streamer controlled entirely by AI. Neurosama, every day between 6 and 11 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. I got to explain device. We don't call it that anymore. It's UTC. But anyway, Neurosama streams herself playing Minecraft and Osu, which is a musical rhythm game. She looks like a Japanese anime-style character, 50,000 followers, talks with them in chat, but she's not a human. She's an AI.
Wild.
This is where that all happens, just is Japanese youth culture, right? I mean,
I saw a story, I didn't put it in the rundown, about a huge market in China for making up fake people.
Yeah.
I don't mean to enter, to be a spokesperson, a thing.
Do you want to see Kazuna? Here she is on her YouTube channel, the AI channel. Is this a disaster is this a takedown ready to happen? I don't know if I should play this. Maybe just leave this for you. Playing a game using only your voice. But you could see there's a certain... So that's an AI voice even. It's not a human. At least according to the story. You never know, right? There could be some 38-year-old guy in a wife beater doing the background. I don't know.
A vocoder.
In the latest live stream on Monday, according to Vice, when a user asked Neurosama if she's more of a Chip or Dale type of chipmunk, she said, "I think I'm more of a Dale." She frequently back and forth with the chat saying things, "Are you seriously trying to troll me?" That was an awful chat after numerous users put F in the chat instead of questions for her. Wow. Interesting. So I guess this is the next generation of cam performers. Why use a human when you can do AI? And I wanted to ask you if you were watching Monday Night Football on Monday and what you thought.
I watched it briefly because I was busy doing something else, and then I saw the incident with
Damar Hamlin. Yeah. 24-year-old safety, a very routine tackle, catch, and he tackled a guy and got up.
Former Clemson Tiger T. Higgins was the receiver that he was tackling.
Oh, okay. Got up, then staggered and fell, and they actually had to call off the game. They performed CPR on him for something like 9 minutes.
9 minutes.
Brought an ambulance out on the field and took him to the hospital where he is still in critical condition. And we don't know much. They haven't said much.
Last report I saw is he is improving, but he's still in critical care.
Good. So, according to the Bills, he suffered cardiac arrest during the play. His heartbeat was restored on the field. They had a small defibrillator in the ambulance, which I didn't see. I thought it was manual CPR, but no, in fact, they had a defibrillator. And he is in the hospital sedated. I was told they had to intubate him. So,
yes, they did.
Right. Since he's on a ventilator, you don't want to be conscious during that. His heartbeat was, according to the Bills, was restored on the field, transferred to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center for further testing and treatment.
And then they had to do it again in the hospital.
Did they? Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that's worrisome.
I did not see it. We were on the airplane coming home. But when we turned on the news on the way home, it was, of course, all over the news.
I saw a reference on Twitter and went to dial immediately and was shocked what was going on. And it was also just amazing. And I was curious, what did the commentators say? They just didn't know what to say.
The commentators they wanted to be sensitive to the situation.
ESPN was the broadcaster.
Right. They wanted to be sensitive to the situation, but at the same time, you could see that their emotions were all over the place. And I felt for those folks trying to do that job because they wanted to present the information to the viewers, but it was very difficult for them because they could see someone's life was in the balance right in front of their eyes.
Yep.
And that was, to me, the most remarkable thing after the fact. I saw a video. I didn't see the tackle or his fall, but of all the players crying, and you see these big brute guys in tears.
There, but for the grace of God, go they.
Yeah, well, that's right. That was very moving.
So close.
Yeah.
And the other thing that struck me, Leo, is the damage that professional football does to young men's bodies. We don't see until a few decades later, and this is a case where we saw it right there.
And even with that incident there, and I don't want to diminish this, he took a hit in the chest, and that triggered it.
It was kind of a freak, as far as we know.
Right, it is a freak accident, because that typically you see stuff like that would happen in an auto racing event because of the impact hitting the wall and that jarring motion, but it's still a freak accident. I hate what I saw online was the people were, number one, blaming it on football. It's not necessarily football's fault. Blaming it on T. Higgins, the receiver himself.
Certainly not his fault.
Not his fault. And next, blaming it on some other political bullcrap that I'm not even going to say what it is, but it was some other political stuff. Yep. This is just a freak accident.
It's amazing how people get
doing
politics into everything. Is just mind-boggling.
Well, it's not just politics; it's lies.
Yeah.
But I'm not a sports guy.
Your kids played football, and I think you played football, right? And you're certainly a huge football fan.
Yes, sir. I played.
Does it damage the sport?
No, in my opinion, no, it does not. And I'm very, very different when it comes to this, because I know about all of the CTE and the concussions that people deal with. My son got a concussion, the college boy, he got a concussion back 4 years ago, and it pretty much ruined Queen Pruitt. She wouldn't go to another game because she didn't like what she saw. She supports him, but she couldn't go back to a ball game. And when this incident happened Monday night, it brought me to tears, because it's just, it's beyond my control. But at the same time, those kids are out there doing what they freaking love to do. And that sometimes that sad stuff happens. And I could think about Hardhead right now, and that's in high school, and the stuff that he's gone through, and his teammate, the quarterback, took a blow to the head at the end of a game, and that really wrecked us. That was a hard night, and trying to console my son and push him through that, and but at the same time, he wanted to be out there for his team, and he wanted to be out there for the love of the game, but yet he knows this is a very, very risky sport at times.
And can I ask you, the reparative surgery you had, was that football injuries?
Believe it or not, track and field brought that on.
Really?
Track and field brought that on. I ran the high hurdles, and I had a cartilage tear in my hip, and it was on my trail leg. So doing that repetitive motion of whipping my trail leg across that hurdle just kept making it worse. Well, I didn't know it at the time.
We wish the best, certainly, for Damar Hamlin, but I think part of what makes football fun is the risk. Young men especially need to take risks, right? It's part of our
or they're being exploited for that too.
Well, that's the other question. I wonder that when I see boxing, I often feel like, this is an exploitive sport. These are usually poor black men who had no other way of making a living, so we put them in the ring and made them punch each other. Right.
Yeah. My dad loved boxing. He watched boxing for many decades, and you ask him any statistic before a certain year, and he can tell you everything about everything. And then at some point, he just hit the limit and went, I can't watch and support this anymore. And I don't think that was blindness on his part. He's a very good guy, or anybody's part who still likes boxing. It's like we all have our different limits in how we perceive it. It's not like blood sport or something. It's not like watching.
But it kind of is a blood sport. And I have the same qualm, because I love football. I love gridiron, American football. I love watching the NFL. Lisa and I both do. We know about CTE. We know about the long-term damage many of these athletes suffer. We now, it's been brought right up to us, the day-to-day risks as well. Yep. My kid played Pop Warner in 5th grade, and he loved it. And it's 5th grade, but they wear helmets.
They take hits too.
They take hits, and in a practice game, one of the players got a tib-fib break, a serious break. He was in a hip cast for the rest of the season. And I'm thinking, do I want my son out there doing this? But he loved it. And so it's hard.
That's where I am. I see all of those potentially horrible aspects of it. Yet at the same time, I tell my family this all the time. Football changed my life. I mean, I can go all the way back to being 7 years old in the exact moment where my life changed socially as a young black man and being different from the other kids in the neighborhood, not having friends, but something about football, and that it flipped a switch and my life changed going forward. And then being able to get relationships with coaches. Now, granted, I did see my father regularly, but when I was 6 years old, he and my mother divorced. So he wasn't in the house. But having those father figures as coaches was tremendous for me. And it all turns back to football. So it's really hard for me to poo-poo the game of football when I look at what it's done for me in my life and helped me in my day-to-day.
Can I ask you a question, Ant?
Sure.
Because I'm not, as you know, a sports guy at all, right? I'm like a Christmas and Easter Christian. I'm a Super Bowl and World Cup sports fan, right?
Nice.
And so watching the World Cup, which this year was just, even I knew was amazing.
Yeah.
What always strikes me when I watch what we call soccer is that, when you get kicked in the shins, you roll around in the ground in agony to try to get the penalty, right? And so it's this performative agony versus American football is, I can take anything. Yeah. And I'm not hurting. No, I do it through the pain. Yeah. There just seems to be a huge cultural difference there.
I'm going to come up and kick you hard in the shins, and then you tell me how you feel.
Well, but American football, they don't do it. You kick me hard in the shins in football. I'm tough.
Baseball's the same way. They rub it off. Whatever you do, don't.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's so. The question is that American? Is part of the problem with American football is the sport and race and television and money, but is it also our culture?
I would think it's American culture myself. I heard all of that in football, basketball, baseball, all of those. You get hurt, be quiet, rub a little dirt on it, you'll be okay. Right. Little stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
that is very American.
Extent,
don't cry.
I enjoyed that.
We tell boys not to cry, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's problems with that. You shouldn't tell them not to cry. But the biggest thing that I got out of it was things are going to hurt sometimes, but it shouldn't stop you. Yeah. And you can take that metaphorically in life. You're going to have some challenges in just societal norms, but you can't let it hold you back either.
It's such an interesting question because the players want to do it, right? They love it. Right. You just told an amazing story about it changing your life at the age of 7.
Yep. I remember the exact moment. I was playing cornerback of all positions, had no idea what I was doing at cornerback, and this kid.
You were 7.
Right. And
you were 7. It's okay. Hey, you didn't need to know how to be a quarterback.
That's another thing that's a big difference. Football, for some reason, you watch a 7-year-old group of 7-year-olds play soccer, and it's like you're watching a school of fish swimming. They're all moving. They're all chasing the they got one kid's facing the other. But it's very football in America, even for little kids, is extremely serious. Yeah. You don't screw around in football.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ed. You were telling your story.
No, it's. I remember I was playing cornerback, and we were playing against Iva in South Carolina, and the kid got the ball to run around the corner towards me, and there was this moment of, oh crap, this
here he comes
versus this other kid. Yeah. What am I supposed to do? And something just said, go hit him, go make the tackle. And when I went to hit him and make that tackle, I remember the sound. I remember what it feels like. I remember the sideline because it was on my sideline. I remember my coaches yelling. I remember my teammates yelling. Wow. And something just changed right there. And I was hooked ever since. And it totally changed my life.
That kid, however, decided to become an artist.
Bless his heart.
Something changed his life. No, now I feel jealous. I have always felt envious of people who played team sports through college or even later. There's something you get out of being on a team together that is a super valuable lesson.
Yeah. And my mother, she didn't want me to play. That was a big battle in the family. Yeah. But her friend at the time talked her into it because he was a coach, and I'm forever grateful for him.
It'd be good for him. Yeah.
And it did. It literally changed my life. And the whole team aspect that you mentioned, I stand by that, sir. I stand by that.
I mean,
it's
the issue
with brotherhood.
The issue with football has a lot of change, though, right? Is that it's not the same game you played when you were a kid. I mean, at the professional level, but even at the college level, it's like, bigger, harder, faster. Kind of like every sport, it's got optimized towards something that is more dangerous. And I don't think the sports safety. I mean, we're starting to finally see it hasn't caught up with that increased level of danger. And if that keeps that, I mean, that's the thing is, you wouldn't be playing in high school if your school couldn't get insurance. And we're starting to see reports of that. So it's going to have to change at a high school and below level so the schools can keep getting insured. And otherwise, there won't be any pipeline to players.
There is definitely a trickle down with the research on helmets starting to happen towards the high school side. I can't say towards the Pop Warner side yet, because that's a whole different ball of wax. It's usually private. But it is trickling down into the high school level as far as the protection that they're getting in the helmets and in the shoulder pads and things like that.
And they're changing the rules dramatically every season.
Yeah.
The rules change dramatically on, whether you can hit a quarterback, how you can hit somebody.
How you hit a quarterback.
Helmet to helmet, we used to call it clipping, which tackling somebody below the knees from behind. And that is, I mean, there are so many more things you can do that are wrong, and that's good. That's in response to that. But you make a good point, Glenn, because our training methods have gotten so good, and our diet and so forth. We can make people who are hugely strong. When you get hit by a 300-pound guy, I don't care if he's tackling you perfectly. It's gotta hurt, right?
Where does Mean Joe Green, if you look at Mean Joe Green, compare with today's
tiny.
players?
He's tiny. Look at these new players. They're huge.
Or Joe Refrigerator Perry. You're like, I don't know. He's kind of like a college fridge.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that's so.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Dorm fridge.
Yeah.
Not to make fun. Those are great players in their day. It's funny. It's like we start talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, I used to watch football. I kind of forgot, but I did. But those were great players in their days.
It's a wonderful sport to watch. I imagine, and I think you've proven it, Ant, a wonderful sport to play. And it's dangerous, but I think danger is maybe part of the excitement of playing it. If it were perfectly safe, would it be as fun?
I'm not sure, but I will say that I've taken a beating more so on the basketball court than I ever did.
Oh, God, the throwing elbows.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's no protection. There's no pads.
More injuries in the basketball than football.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Well, you're not protected. Yeah.
Nope.
The technology angle to this story, Leo, was interesting because I watched for a long time, and TV didn't know what to do, so they threw in every commercial they had in the box. It kept going to come back.
They didn't know if the game was going to come back for a long time.
They didn't know, right? Yeah. But the thing is, the crowd in the stadium stayed there. There was nothing being told to them. Nothing at all. Right. But they all had phones. They all knew what was going on.
And they cared. This is Cincinnati. It was a serious game. They really cared. And one of the things you see in football that you don't see in any other sport is the brotherhood between teams. It always amazes me at the end of the game when players who've been fighting each other like animals for a whole game come over and hug each other and shake hands and say, how you doing? How the kids?
Sure do.
There is a fraternity of football players.
I never see that in basketball. No. I don't think they do it in baseball.
Not only do they not do it.
Baseball shake each other's hands
shake
like their own teammates.
The losing team slinks off. And football players love each other. And I think part of that is because they know they're gladiators in the arena, and but also because they all played with each other and they all know each other pretty well. I think it's a beautiful sport. I'm a huge fan, and as a fan, and I'm glad we have you here, Ant, because as a fan, I always worry that we're supporting something that is not good, that is exploitative of the players or not good for the players.
No, and the whole exploitation thing has been thrown out for the last handful of years. And I get where people are coming from. But at the end of the day, these players that sign those contracts, they choose to sign the contracts. They don't have to play in the NFL. Right. They can go and get a job over here at In-N-Out, Right. But they're given a tremendous opportunity to change their life financially, and they choose to sign that contract. That's all you can say about it.
The other thing I would say is that in generations and centuries past, we've gone to war instead. So maybe it's nice to have an alternative for young men to express those feelings and get that testosterone out without literally killing each other. This all actually is a Google story. Surprise.
Look at you.
Look
man,
at me.
I tell you, you got skills.
Google won the contract for Sunday Ticket.
Oh.
It's going to be on YouTube TV. This was talking about a battle. Apple was the front runner for a long time. The NFL gets $1.5 billion a year from DirecTV. DirecTV's been losing their shirt on it. They did it because they figured this is going to sell a lot of satellite dishes and a lot of subscriptions, not just to homeowners, but to bars. But ultimately, they couldn't justify the $1.5 billion a year. So the networks went, yeah. And so who came in? The Amazon, Google, and Apple, the tech companies who have the money to spend and who have an interest beyond, gaining subscribers. Apple eventually dropped out, I think, because they couldn't come to an agreement with the NFL about how Apple could run it. For instance, I've heard Apple wanted to give it away free. That there was
part of Apple Plus or something.
Yeah,
right?
And there were some issues over international rights. But Google jumped in as soon as Apple withdrew and took it. We don't know how much they paid, but speculation is it's at least $2 billion a year. Google can afford that.
Because I was on vacation last week, I didn't read into this a whole lot. I just saw the headline and said, nope, I'm not working. But I was curious, was there anything about the potential pricing to the consumer? Because that was the problem with DirecTV in its package deal. It was ridiculously expensive for those handful of games to happen, for roughly 6 months. It just never really equated to being a good dollar value.
I'm looking at the Google blog post, and I don't see anywhere where they've said how much, but I have read in commentary that it's expected they will upsell it, that it won't be part of, you'll have to be a YouTube TV subscriber, and then you'll have to pay an additional monthly fee, which I wouldn't be surprised. Google could subsidize it, but I think the NFL probably wants a percentage.
Well, Google also has the means to sell the advertising that Apple doesn't have.
Well, that's exactly right. It's all out-of-market Sunday regular season NFL games based on the viewer's location. This is the biggest problem with the NFL, by the way. Good luck trying to watch a game out of market. Yeah. Broadcast on Fox, CBS, NFL Sunday Ticket allows fans in the U.S. the ability to follow all their favorite teams and players no matter where they live. That's the real value of it. Our son's a Green Bay Packers fan. They're never going to have a local broadcast of the Packers unless they're playing the Niners. Now he can watch the Packers games. Updated Sunday Ticket product features and functionality will be announced ahead of the 2023 NFL season. That means later this summer. I'm going to guess it's going to cost a not insignificant amount of money every month, but I don't know.
I seem to remember, if you wanted to order it, it was damn near $400 back in the day.
I think that's what it will be. That's be my guess. That's for a 6-month season, right? For September, August through February.
I love the idea of having the ability to see out of market teams.
Is that me?
Oh, am I beeping?
It's not me.
No, that's you.
Oh no, it was John.
It was John. Mr. Jammer.
It's John's new hit.
14 minutes came.
That was the 14-minute timer. Well, there you go.
The timer. That's what it was.
There you go.
Now what happens?
But with.
Oh, okay. So I should explain what that timer is and what the alarm is. We have a new studio sponsor. Thank you, ACI Learning.
Yeah,
they're part of the IT Pro family. They also have Audit Pro, Practice Labs, Hubs. We have been partners with IT Pro TV forever. Now it's ACI Learning from IT Pro. And they sponsor the studio. So every 14 minutes, I guess, we have to put this. We're going to eventually have signage in here. That's as we did with LastPass some years ago, but that's in lieu of that. And I just wanted to welcome them and thank them very much because that's going to be a big help to keeping the lights on around here.
Indeed.
I hope you just do a green screen across your desk and it'll just flow over.
It'll be like a football studio.
We can actually do that. I don't know why we don't do something like that.
The ticker on the bottom of
we could have a ticker.
You are electronic.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
But what I was getting at about the whole package, it's good that you can get these out of market games. But my problem is YouTube TV service not necessarily working for families. My college boy even though he is on my quote family plan as an authorized user, so on and so forth, he cannot watch YouTube TV being off in college in a whole different zip code. That makes no dadgum sense to me. If he were trying to use my username and password up there, I get that. But he's in my plan. I've authorized him and everybody else under the plan to be able to access the service. I don't understand why Google can't, flip a switch and say, oh yeah, he's legit. He should be able to do this.
Oh, it drove me crazy when we were in Mexico. We wanted to watch the 49ers game. And I tried every method.
Every VPN option
I did ExpressVPN, and that worked with Amazon Prime, but Google was way too smart. They said, you're not in the country. I tried every possible method. I subscribed to NFL Plus, and they said, but you're not in the country. And this is the problem. There's so much money in this. These rights deals are extremely complicated. The Mexican broadcasters obviously have their own separate deal, and with that deal, the NFL guarantees they can't watch it any other way, and so it's a. So
VPN wouldn't get you in?
No, I don't know how they're getting around it.
But at the same time, why do I have to figure out a VPN option on a television set?
Well, and why doesn't the NFL have a deal? I mean, I'm willing to give them money. Just give me a way to do it. They're literally, for money or blood or money, there was no way to get it. The only way I could get it was we watched Red Zone, which is the most ADD thing ever.
Yeah.
It is. It's nightmarish. It's like they go to game ding 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 ding. But anyway, we were able to see some of the plays, so that was good. YouTube, actually, CNBC says it'll be roughly $2 billion a year. So that's that will be at the start of the new season next year, available as an add-on package if you're already a YouTube TV subscriber. But this is the good news, Ant, as a standalone a la carte option on YouTube's primetime channels. So it'll be part of YouTube TV, but also part of YouTube. So there may be a solution there for you.
Right.
And I'm sure Google will monetize it, but maybe they will subsidize it as well. We'll see. It was Sunday Ticket on DirecTV was $80 a month for the base option, and extra features for $149.99 a month.
So $80 times 6 months.
Yeah, but that was the basic. Yeah, that was a basic. Almost $500.
It'll be interesting to see Google go up against Murdoch whenever sports things come up for expiration. Because that's Murdoch's whole strategy, is to get as much sports audience as he can.
I think this is the problem now. These tech companies have such deep pockets that even Rupert Murdoch can't compete.
And he already hates Google anyway because they're competitors, and now they're really going to hate each other.
So what is he going to do? He's going to do what everybody else does. He's going to go to the government, whether it's the U.S. government or the EU, and say, hey, or Australia, which he practically owns, and say, hey, these guys are doing me dirt. Which brings us to probably the most important story of the week. The Irish regulators have ruled that Meta, they're fining Meta $400 million, but more importantly, they're saying you cannot use what you know about your users to sell ads.
Did a very sad trombone sound right here.
A top European Union privacy regulator ruled, this is from the Wall Street Journal, Meta platforms cannot use its contracts with Facebook's and Instagram users. They can't say, hey, they said it was okay. Look, they signed this special contract, which nobody reads, to justify sending them ads based on their online activity.
Now, this long run screws media too.
It screws everybody. Google, probably more than anybody else.
Yes.
Now, a $400 million fine to Facebook is not the end of the world. Bigger.
These days.
Maybe. Yeah,
well,
maybe.
They have, it's part of it isn't this one of the first resolutions? The GDPR was passed a few years ago.
Yep.
And there were massive complaints that the process was, any citizen of the EU, or I think certain residents and other organizations could file complaints, and companies would be forced to turn over a significant percentage, like single-digit percentage of their annual revenue and global revenue, if I recall right? And this, as I read these are 2018 complaints being resolved in late 2022, early 2023 here, right? And the Irish regulators now issued $1 billion in fines, but it took a while. So these companies are able to reap the rewards from it. And also with Apple's change their do not track me thing, that policy, which Facebook said was going to cost them billions. There's been some disputes about whether Meta really incurred that kind of cost, but people, when given the choice, say, please do not track me across apps. And that's kind of the fundamental privacy issue. And it's going to cost these companies money that built their operations around tracking them across apps. But in this case, this is even like within the app, right? This is where it gets to it, is it's within their systems.
You agreed when you signed up for Instagram problems. That we could track you. You allowed us to,
right.
And you still can't. Now, according to the Wall Street Journal.
But they're saying you have to expose it better.
No. They're saying you may not, despite... You cannot use its contracts with Facebook and Instagram users to justify sending them ads based on their online activity.
Right, but you could revise that and expose. What they're saying is you could expose, as I understood it, you could expose an option for people, which is buried in the agreement now, but legitimately you could expose an option and let people choose to be tracked, and that's kind of what Apple did. And most people opted out, but not everybody. But Apple provided a very binary option
Apple doesn't
for
really
users.
sell ads.
Yeah, and
it does.
So Meta, well, somewhat, but it's not the big business. But Meta could provide, incentives or present it in a different way that could wind up being compliant. That would be explicit instead of buried in an agreement and be in compliance. So they have options. They just don't like them as well as just hiding it from the user that they're doing this.
This is
but
what
it also
the journal
just demonizes this idea of targeting as if it's the whole. It drives me nuts. A lot of it is this horrible book I had to finish reading. It's not surveillance. Surveillance is when governments come after you with police and watch you. This is ad tracking. It's a way that media and the internet is still seen as a medium. I think that's one of the mistakes here, including news, including a lot of entertainment, makes money so that you get what you get inexpensively. So what we're going to see out of this is, tons of paywalls now and further redlining of quality news and entertainment for the privileged, not for the society at whole. And it's going to be long-term damaging, I argue.
So according to the Wall Street Journal, this issue is over first-party data.
Right.
You can say, as Apple does, block third-party trackers, but Apple, Facebook, and Google all use first-party data, and that's specifically what the Irish regulator is disallowing. Meta has long allowed users to opt out of personalized ads based on data it gleans from users' activity on other websites and apps, but it doesn't give users that option for opting out of ads based on data about activity on its own platform, Instagram or Facebook, such as what posts a user comments on, what videos an Instagram user watches. The journal says that in-house data is one of Meta's main tools for building customized audiences for the personal ads it sells. This is the first-party loophole that Apple and others conveniently ignore. We've said this again and again. All Apple's saying is you can't track, somebody else's app, but Apple knows exactly what you do on the phone. Google knows exactly what you do every time you go on a search. Meta knows exactly what you're doing on every single Meta property. Now the EU is saying you can't even use that data. I don't see anywhere where it says you could you have to ask permission. Maybe there is a loophole.
I'm looking at the story. I thought Meta says they don't. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Meta says it disagrees with the ruling and plans to appeal.
Yeah.
And the journal says that could take years. But if the decisions are upheld, they could mean that Meta will have to allow users to opt out of ads that are based on how users interact with its own apps. So I guess that implies a switch.
Yeah, but in the question, in its first-party data, if it's third-party data, maybe it should be opt-in or it should be informed in Apple's way. I guess, this gets us to the heart of, what we're paying for. If we're the product, even if we're the product of a first-party customization, there's some things I want delivered that way. I remember when Gmail launched and people were freaked out, and in some ways rightly so, that Google would analyze the contents of our email and serve personalized ads based against that, right? And now it's, I don't know, how many years later are we, 17 years or something? And it's still doing some variety of that. We don't have end-to-end encryption on email, although Gmail recently announced they're going to enable an option for that, and then they won't be able to sell ads against the contents of email. So,
but Google's long said we don't do that anyway. Google can easily.
Well, they're doing something, right? They're doing something contextual.
They say they don't.
Early, but they stopped.
Not the contents.
They say they do not, but they don't, and that's only because they don't need to. Every time you do a search. Right. You're announcing what your interests are. You give people that information. So here's what I see as the critical thing. Apple's ATT switch, which, by the way, a majority of users say, no, I don't want tracking, never stopped first-party data. It doesn't stop Apple. Right. Now the EU is saying, Apple, Google, Meta, you have to offer a switch that stops first-party data. And I think every single user will turn that off.
And I don't think that's in GDPR. That's the other thing. I think it's a misreading. As bad as GDPR is, and as confusing as it is, I think that's a misreading of what's there. Because again, when the newspapers realize and news publishers realize what's going on here, and entertainment companies realize what's going on here in this streaming world that is more and more supported by advertising, they're going to have fits here. Because I've been pushing every news organization out there to say, change your product strategy so you get first-party data. That is your only defense. Google went out there, right, and tried to kill cookies, and the publishers weren't ready. So they're the ones who said, no, hold on to cookies for now, because they don't know what they're doing and they don't have their first-party data strategies. They're going to be screwed all around. This is going to kill tons of media.
This is what the Journal says. Ireland did not want to do this, but they found that nothing in GDPR stopped Meta from making behavioral ads a necessary part of its contract with users. But a number of other EU privacy regulators disagreed, arguing that behavioral ads are not necessary to provide a social network. They didn't need those ads. And a board of all EU privacy regulators, the European Data Protection Board, last month overruled Ireland as part of a dispute resolution system built into GDPR. Yep. So what happened is Ireland said, yeah, GDPR does not disallow this. But the rest of Europe said, no, wait a minute, it does.
Or a body representing the rest of Europe.
Said, no, we believe that, in fact, this is under the domain of GDPR, and it isn't necessary for Meta to create a business. So we believe that you should stop it. And I think this is a significant shot across the bow. And I think it should not be ignored. Now it's going to take a while. It'll be appealed. There'll be a lot of litigation. But there's a risk here.
What does the U.S. government do at the time when the U.S. government is starting, under both parties, is going at a pincer against Silicon Valley? This is about protecting American industry. You watch what's happening with Mastodon. It's fascinating that the EU government is investing in Mastodon stuff, which I think is fine. I've said it to you for years. Stop whining about Google. Invest in your own stuff. But because it's European and it's anti-Silicon Valley, the government is taking a real role there in trying to fight Silicon Valley. And the U.S. government is going to have to say in trade agreements, whoa, here. We'll see what they do.
Yeah. I mean, I think users want that switch. Users want to be able to say, don't track me, bro.
But they, see, I think there's a fundamental issue not about whether personalized ads should be used at all and whether companies should have a right to use data they collect from you within their own systems in order to feed advertising. I think it's an ecosystem issue. It's a disclosure issue. And it's also a what are we paying for issue, right? I preferentially pay for or use services that I know are not making money off me in a secondary way whenever it's possible. It's one reason why, again, like Mastodon, I'm not paying for Mastodon yet, but it is a superior product in some ways already for my particular set of interests because I'm not worried about Twitter's business model anymore, what they're doing with my data. Now, I do want to pay somebody for Mastodon in some distributed way. Leo, thank you very much for underwriting the 100 million toots I've made on the .social server. Leo's paying for me right now.
Wonderful person, and I'm very glad to have you on the Mastodon.
So you're my volunteer payment coordinator here for this service. But so I don't blame Google or Apple, any of the companies, for wanting to do it. I feel like I mean, if the EO went too far, it's in creating not providing enough guidance about what to do. And if the option were, look, you got to have a really clear page where someone can go and say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And the companies, I think, by contrast, should say, if you flip the switch off, you're going to need to upgrade to a subscription where you pay X. I mean, that's the Twitter trade-off, right? We're seeing in real time Elon Musk discover what advertising actually brings to Twitter and how his $8 a month service doesn't necessarily replace the value of the ads he wants to turn off. So, is it a privacy thing when everything's first party and everything's kept within the system? Not as much as when we find out that companies have been leaking first party stuff into third parties, which comes up all the time. So there's trust issues. I don't know.
Glenn, I think you're way right. Going back to the very beginnings, to the first days of the first cookies. Your cookies were necessary for the maintenance of web operations. When they got used for advertising, we were not in the least transparent about it. It made it easy for the Wall Street Journal to come along and demonize them. What do they know about you? What they know, right? It was a whole big series. And the industry, by that I mean both technology and media and advertising, all hurt themselves by not caring about the trust in the public.
But let me ask you this,
I think it got
Jeff.
demonized, overdone.
Do you think it's a user's right to tell Facebook or Instagram or Apple or Google, no, I don't want you to track me?
I actually don't think, because I think it's what Glenn just said. A company can set the terms of their use. And they can say,
this is their service.
You want to use this thing? Fine. Here's the deal.
Here's how
this is the deal we make.
Yeah.
Like Hulu. You pay a different rate at Hulu with ads and without ads.
Right.
And it is the case that we're using these amazing free services from Google and Facebook. They're absolutely free, and they're paid for by advertising. And that advertising, apparently advertisers believe, I know they tell us this, they need this tracking information.
Yes.
Advertisers have been spoiled by digital media. When you buy a TV ad, when you buy an ad on the Super Bowl, all you know is you're going to reach 80 million people. You don't know which people.
Right.
And that's why, if you're Coca-Cola, you go, well, they all drink Coke, or worse, they drink Pepsi, and we want them to drink Coke. So that's a worthwhile buy. But when people buy our podcasts, they want to know who am I talking to? And I understand why advertisers want that. And I understand it's a careful balance between us turning over information about our audience. The good news is with podcasting, we can't because it's RSS. All we know is your IP address, and even that we don't really care or know about.
Until Spotify comes along and changes.
But then that's why Spotify's a threat, and iHeart and Amazon and Audible, because all of those shows you listen to only in their app. And their app knows everything. It knows
everything.
Your charge card, your name, address, phone number. It knows how much of the show you listen to, when you listen to it. Did you hear the ad? Did you not hear the ad? And advertisers, if given the choice between knowing absolutely nothing and absolutely everything, always are going to choose everything. Whether it helps them or not, I don't know. But
meanwhile, the other book that I had to read that drove me completely nuts is Jaron Lanier.
10 arguments for deleting your social media accounts.
So this is a companion piece to the much longer Shoshana Zuboff, right? The view of the moral entrepreneurs here is that advertising is the root of all ills, and so it should become a paid internet, which is a position of extreme privilege, that you can afford to pay for all these services, but many can't. Number one,
right?
Or there's going to be crappy competition and disinformation that's always free. And I think that they're not looking at the larger picture of the ecosystem in which we live.
I'm just surprised that Jared Lanier wrote a book, because I remember his famous quote when he missed the 7th deadline of not delivering an earlier book. He called his publisher and said, "Every cell in my body has been replaced since I agreed to meet the deadline."
Oh my God!
15 years ago.
Oh my God!
Except his hair was the same hair.
Jaron, who was an early proponent of VR, he was the VR king.
Yes.
Has written books called "You Are Not a Gadget," Truth, Technology, and the Visual Virtual World, The Dawn of the New Everything. He's kind of become a Luddite.
Oh yeah. Well, it's these technologists, Tristan Harris, Roger McNamee, Jaron Lanier. They see
made
the
their
burning
money.
bush.
Yeah.
They made their money. They cashed the check, and then they see the burning bush and find virtue.
Yeah.
Cliff Stoll, who got out of the business, who wrote a bunch of books that were like that, and then got out of the business and now makes Klein bottles.
We have an interview.
He went the right direction.
I did a triangulation with Cliff. Cliff used to be a regular on Tech TV. He used to come on and do anti-technology screeds.
I kind of love the guy.
We loved it. It was fun because here we are at Technology Channel, and some guy's going. He's saying exactly what Jaron just said. Delete your social media. Yeah. And but we did an interview with him on his Klein bottles. And he went into his attic, and he has a little robot that goes into his attic and fetches the Klein bottle and brings it out. It was it was on Triangulation, well worth watching. Cliff wrote, of course, The Cuckoo's Nest, which is a very famous book about tracking hackers. I like Cliff a lot. He's a stranger. He's a weirdo.
There's a long history of people. I mean, writing negative things about technology.
It made John C. Dvorak's career. Are you kidding?
Well, it's also weirdly at the same time. It's like if you're a school district or a state and you want to fund something, you say we're going to buy computers for every kid. If you want to sell a book, you say no kids should be using computers in schools. There's some fundamental conflict there. I don't get.
Right. There was an exchange on Mastodon today. Somebody who left Twitter wants to write a book about responsible AI. I'll find this in a second, and is being driven nuts by agents and publishers and trying to write the book. And Masnick came in. Masnick and I, have the same experience. Masnick came in and said, "Yeah, I tried to sell a book that was positive about the internet, and they all said no, nobody wants that." Which of course, my last book was. That's what happened. Nobody bought it. I'm going to try again soon.
Do people still buy books? Really?
Yeah, it was a good year. The pandemic was a very good year.
Yeah, biggest, highest dollar value. The ebook sales have leveled off.
Oh.
Hardcover sales remain strong. Trade sales are strong.
Cuckoo's Egg. Thank you very much, Doug M., for correcting me. That was Cliff's book of some years ago, probably 30 years ago now.
I met one of the guys in Cuckoo's Egg. I was reading it, and I was like, oh, is that you? Name redacted. And he said, oh, my God, please don't bring that up. That ruined my childhood. He got caught hacking at a young age and redeemed himself.
Was he German? I thought it was a German hacking group.
I shouldn't reveal the details. I don't want to ruin his life 30 years later.
Okay.
I mean, his name was openly in the book, and he hadn't changed his name. But he was hoping. This was before the internet. Oh my God! I just realized this was when I brought this up to him, wondering if it was the same person. This was before you could search on anything on the internet. It was just the early days of Alta Vista, and so for him, he's like, "Oh, if you don't say anything to anybody, no one will ever connect
me. If you're not
me."
in Yahoo, you're fine.
I know, and now I'm like, "Oh, you type in," you're like, "Oh, here's where it was in."
Poor guy.
Who's that? Yeah.
By the way, how was your trip to Germany with your son? I saw all the pictures. I really enjoyed it.
Ausgezeichnet. It was
Each
great.
breakfast was the best breakfast you'd ever had to date.
Oh my God, the food in Germany was so good, and
That's
Germany,
why I
Austria,
go to Germany. It's just to eat.
Czechia, and Slovenia. And I met the last letterpress printer in Ljubljana, Slovenia. It was a lovely guy. And he's a letterpress printer and stone letter carver. His father was trained on the Dalmatian coast of Croatia as a stone carver. He said, my father had two choices. He could go to the sea or he could learn to carve stones. And he chose to go to the school to carve stones. And he's like there's some other letterpress printers in Slovenia, but it's so wild. It's a relatively small country. This guy has a shop in like downtown Ljubljana, and he has beautiful work, and he has crammed the entire capability of letterpress printing into this tiny workshop he has, and he's in there on a weekend working away on some books for somebody. And it's like, what is it like to be the last, in other countries, America, there's a lot of interest in letterpress. There's movements, there's colleges, whatever. It's like he can't ignite any interest there. So he's kind of the last person in Slovenia who maybe run these things.
Glenn was talking about trying to figure out how to do a tour.
Oh yeah,
to go over to Slovenia for press nuts like us.
Yeah, go there and eat delicious food. Take the funicular up to the Ljubljana castle and ride on the river. And it's a lovely, the capital of Slovenia. Top notch.
You can hear more about this trip if you're a member of Club Twit.
That's right.
Ooh, fireside chat that I hosted with Mr. Glenn Fleischman.
I went to. That's where we talked a bunch. I went to every technology museum I could, and the German Technology Museum, the Deutsche Technik Museum, has it's an incredible place. You could spend days there, and I went to the printing floor, of course, and met a wonderful fella who is covered in tattoos and piercings, and I was like, I know I'm going to like this guy, because if you meet, printers are usually either covered in tattoos and piercings or look like me, just absolutely bland in every way. And so we had a great conversation about flong and printing techniques and lithography and the history of things, and he showed me cool stuff, and they have an amazing typewriter collection. And I'm like, wait, I know that typewriter. A typewriter, it was like a rare 1800s thing that was made in Denmark. Anyway, it was
Speaking of typewriters, one of the reasons I wanted Glenn to be on today is so he can plug something that he's been helping with. You should talk about.
You mean
right
Shift
now.
Happens?
Shift Happens. I have, in fact, right in front of me. I just got today. This is the we did a test print of the book. So this is exclusive to Twit, live on the air. This is it says we need.
I can't wait.
Adding machines,
adding machines and keyboards and beautiful.
Oh, I like how this is
heaven.
Dude. This is going to be in a slipcase. It's going to be a beautiful volume.
This is and we're using stochastic screening. It's sort of the modern dithered printing, and you get. Let me find the. There's a linotype in here. There we go. Here's the linotype.
Oh, that's to my heart.
And it's the printing. Like, I'm an old printing guy, where you used halftone dots, and you always had to mess with like the angles of things and sizes and whatever. In stochastic screening, it's like super high quality dithering, and so you can resolve the dots are super tiny, and so you can read like the type. Like if I showed you a. I don't know, like there's a picture of someone typing on a piece of paper, and you can read the paper on their, like this is a good example. This looks like a continuous tone photograph because there's so much detail in it. And this is a offset printed item.
So it's still screened, but it's such a high resolution, or?
Yeah, it does. They use individual, so it's FM screening, it's frequency modulation screening as opposed to amplitude modulation. So the halftone dots are bigger or smaller, and these are a pattern. And when you put the pattern together, you get here's a centerfold for those of the right age and era.
Yes, the spectrum.
Anyway, so this is a 32-page preview we're going to be handing out to a select few, maybe as a premium. But yeah, in a month, Marcin Wishery and I are going to launch this thing. It's his baby, 1,200 pages plus another 100 pages in a third volume. It's like you can go to the site and Shift Happens.
What's your body font in that?
That is, what's funny? I don't know. I wasn't involved in the design. Marcin did a beautiful job of it. I should know that offhand, and I don't know. It's
a very lovely serif. Do you know what software they use to lay it out?
It's InDesign, and Marcin is a programmer and designer and photographer and a lot of other things. And InDesign has a JavaScript programming language built in. It's an old, bad version of JavaScript. So he has been wrestling for years, and he can write a new draft of this thing or edit it and hit a button, and over a period of literally hours on a modern Mac, it will relay out the entire book.
Wow. It's really beautifully produced, the way the function keys.
Well, Glenn was helping him do that.
Yeah, it's just beautifully produced. Wow, I can't wait to see it. I will absolutely.
This is great. We're gonna start this about a month. You can sign up now. My little promotional thing, thank you, Jeff, is that if you go to this site, if you go to shifthappens.site, you can sign up to get a notification when we launch the Kickstarter in about a month. This is the book I was talking about. We almost bought paper from a paper maker in Germany, and then it shipped across the ocean, and it was ridiculous. In the end, we're using a U.S. printer and domestically produced U.S. paper because it's just so much simpler, and we found a paper we really like. But it was funny. It was like, am I going to fly to like a small town in Germany to talk to paper makers?
Well, and sadly, until recently, a lot of these books were printed in China. That was the go-to to print these high quality books, chronicle books, and others. Yeah. This is beautiful.
There's a thing called, was it inshoring or something, or reshoring? Is like we were trying to find. We were going to go to press last year, and printers in America were overwhelmed, and the prices were going up because so many publishers had tried to bring books back. So they locked up capacity. So this year is a little bit easier.
Nice.
While we're on this topic, we should go to line 89.
Well, we will, and we would if this were a democracy, but it's not. So, but put a pin in it, please.
All right. Or in my eye, whichever.
Yeah.
fits.
No.
The emperor has spoken.
Our show today.
It's just like the U.S. House right now. It's not a democracy either. I was thinking that today.
Are you saying I'm Kevin McCarthy? Is that
yes?
Thank you very much.
We've had
holding on to power for dear life.
You could be Jim Jordan then. Ooh, wow. Ooh, I did want to show you, Glenn, because I took my son to Germany in, I think it was 2006. Mm-hmm. And here's a picture. I saw your picture at Checkpoint Charlie. Here's a picture of Henry, my son, when he was a little boy at Checkpoint Charlie.
Nice.
And I made, what I did with Henry is I made him pose. The Brandenburg Gate at the time had a giant diorama. Let me see if I can, of what it looked like after the war.
Oh.
You can see the actual horses, and the gate is just behind this, but there was this giant. So I said, looks sad.
What an actor! What an actor!
And he's a good actor.
There.
Yeah, there you go.
I sent pictures of my wife from Checkpoint Charlie. She had been there. My wife was passed through Berlin in 1989 on a long European trip, and I think it was after the wall had fallen, and she got a tiny piece of the wall, and later lost it, unfortunately. But so she was there when things were going a little nuts, and I showed her some pictures from Checkpoint Charlie today, and I'm like, you cannot take a picture without KFC or McDonald's or other there's no angle.
Subway right over his shoulder, unfortunately. But there's also Snack Charlie, which is I think that's been there forever. I think that's where you would stop after you crossed over from the Eastern District.
Well, I was in East Germany a couple times. I spent a month there trying to write a really bad novel that thank God never got published.
When it was still East Germany?
Oh yes. Yeah.
I spent why would you go there to write a novel?
Because it was about Berlin.
Oh, okay.
He's a suffer. It's a suffer for his art.
It's up in the closet. When I die, the kids can laugh at it.
Oh wow.
But I went over, and the thing is, you'd come back from, this is so capitalistic. You'd come back from East Berlin after a day there, and I would be grateful to leave Kami Cola behind and find a choice of Coke and Pepsi again.
Kami Cola was so bad. Yeah.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
This is Jeff told me when I was there. He said you have to go to KaDeWe, which is the what is it? It's like the
Kaufhaus des Westens.
Yes, right. So it's the shrine to capitalism.
Yes.
I went in there and it was like it makes you want to tear the entire world down because it's just all luxury brands. Everything's encrusted. It was but I had a great meal there. It's a wonderful place.
The food floor KaDeWe is phenomenal.
The food floor, the sixth floor.
See, I don't usually think of Germany and great food in the same sense.
It has
changed.
Like
yeah.
Because
plus, I love Wurst.
Yeah, you have to love sausage.
I go to the Wurst stand and I get a couple of Deborah in mustard with a little Britchen and a beer, and I'm happy.
That's actually pretty good.
I'm very happy.
I have to.
I did not have any doner kebab, and I did not have what's the Wurst you're supposed to have there? No, I don't know how it happened.
The currywurst is awful.
I didn't have currywurst, so I don't know.
It's awful.
Really
you missed
Berlin?
Nothing? Okay, that's good to know.
What I didn't know until I haven't been back to Germany since I learned this, I didn't know that Leberkäse, which means liver cheese, is neither liver nor cheese.
Which is not a bad thing, honestly.
What is it then?
Yeah, what is it?
It's meat. It's Germany, so it's meat. Yeah.
I love German food.
Do you?
My first experience with German food, I was visiting an office in Florida, and there was a German restaurant nearby. So I went over there on a whim, and I walked in, and it's a very small little shop, and I walked in, and there was this flat iron skillet back there just sizzling, and there's this big giant dude, blonde-haired dude, just flipping something in the grease and just going at it, and then he's chugging a beer, and I was like, I'm going to eat here. And it was the best damn meal. Oh, it was so good.
You found home.
All right. Break time. I don't have any ads, which is always a sad moment on this show. But I do have two house ads I want to tell you about. First of all, we're doing our annual survey. We don't track you, but we do like to be able to tell something about our audience to advertisers. So the survey is what we tell them, and it's actually a very helpful sales tool for us. We don't collect information about you individually. We're not going to ask you for your email or anything like that. It's all in aggregate. So the address for this year's survey, as you could figure, if you saw the video, it's twit.tv/survey23. This is 1 year later. Survey 23. We do this every January. You have the month of January to do it, but please do it quickly if you would. That would help us. In fact, if we get enough respondents, we don't have to keep talking about this. We'd like to get about 10 or 20,000 respondents as a good sample size of our audience. Just, to know a little bit about you. It shouldn't take long. It's, of course, completely optional, but it's very helpful to us. twit.tv/survey23. No salesman will call. And then the other thing really is something near and dear to my heart. And I didn't realize this, but we started Club Twit almost 2 years ago. It was April
of a couple of years.
Yeah. I had no idea. April of 2020.
It was a big announcement. I remember that.
Yeah.
And it's been growing and growing and growing, and it's dadgum awesome to see the growth.
We're so happy that you have joined, those of you who have, and we thank the members of Club Twit for making it possible to do many of the things we do these days, including, incidentally, the special shows that we do on Club Twit. Coming up, we've got Stacy's Book Club. That's coming a week from Thursday. We're going to be doing Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. I can't wait for that. Lisa and I are going to do an Inside Twit on the 19th. So that's always fun to hear us talk about what's going on inside Twit. And Wintu Dow, who's one of the hosts of All About Android, will be on February 9th. But Ant's always putting together fun events. Glenn Fleischman was one of those events. After the live event, you can listen on our Twit Plus feed. That's where we also put shows that we do for the club only. Things like Hands on Macintosh with Micah Sargent, Hands on Windows with Paul Thurrott. This Week in Space launched in the club. The club members supported it. Once it got big enough, we put it out in public. We're going to add video to that soon. The Untitled Linux Show, which is Saturdays with Jonathan Bennett. We're going to start adding video to that as well, which is exciting. It's a chance for us to test stuff that can't support itself yet. The club members get to support it. And you'd think after all that it's going to be expensive. It's not. It's $1 less than a blue check on Twitter. It's $7 a month. That's a great deal. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. That means no tracking, no ads, just the show, just the content. You get the Twit Plus feed with special shows we don't put in public. The Giz Fizz is going to be part of that as well. In fact, the Giz Fizz is coming up. Its first episode is coming up after this show. Dick DeBartolo's Giz Fizz, right after Twig concludes later this afternoon. All of that, $7 a month. Do me a favor, go to twit.tv/clubtwit. Thanks to all of you who've already joined. Actually, there's no point in doing that because they're not seeing this because they don't get ads. But I do thank you anyway, in absentia. And soon you'll be part of that group, right? twit.tv/club.
I subscribe myself.
We gave you a complimentary membership.
It didn't matter.
Thank you.
It's about being part of the club. It's about doing it, and you all should do it.
It really, we're very happy with how it's turned out. And a lot of that's due to Aunt Pruitt, who's our community manager and has made it interesting and fun.
Try.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Iridescent Ox in our Discord says, big fan of Club Twit Purple Heart. I guess that means he was wounded in action at some point during the Club Twit chats. I don't know.
Kind of a lavender heart, actually.
Okay, lavender is fine. I love it. The only thing about the Discord, it is the home of animated GIFs or GIFs.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
GIFs.
All the time.
It's really quite entertaining, actually.
And every now and then, Joe Esposito makes a meme out of us.
Oh yeah,
live.
Oh yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah. All right. What is it? Line 89. Let's see.
Typewriter relevant. That's all. Minor little things.
There's a story about typewriter art.
No, well, it's just a little moment.
I love typography.
Show it.
I know. People who do this
You have to do this on
Twitter?
Twitter?
I don't even understand them.
Okay. Oh, that's really nuts.
Oh, it's Instagram. It's from Instagram.
It's from Insta? Okay. Yeah. This is nuts. He is using a typewriter to do ASCII art of Ma and Pa Kettle at the barn.
This is...
If you go to his Instagram, he has tons of them. A wasted life, but
oh my God,
the work.
No, I know it's not. I just American Gothic. But honestly, don't you think of it as Ma and Pa Kettle? I mean, who doesn't, right?
Well, I forgot you're 97 years old because. But should I point out that I got the references silly too?
It,
so
yeah.
What am I saying when I say that?
Really, seriously, I guess you're right that Ma and Pa Kettle is probably.
It's like a 1920s radio show that became like a 1930s movie series. Or
yeah, I didn't watch.
This is where Leo goes to the YouTube.
Yeah,
and shows the kids what they miss.
Ma and Pa Kettle was a great movie.
It's pretty
series.
funny.
I loved it. But then I like Charlie Chan also, which was some white guy pretending to be Chinese and saying, Confucius say, murderer lives on roof or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a different, they say a different time. Representation.
I even remember Charlie Chan. The actor was Werner Oland.
Is it German?
I don't know.
The thing I just found out is the guy who played the worst Nazi in Casablanca was actually one of the greatest anti-Nazi Germans in history. And he used money he got from his salary in Hollywood to fund anti-Nazi causes, anti-fascist causes.
Wow.
Incredible. But he insisted on playing like the worst Nazis. He didn't want to see them. So he did an incredible
that's
job.
good. He was a bad, because he hated Nazis.
He wanted to show them,
bad.
He said, I'll never play one and shows them at all in a good light. And he was Major Strasse, right? Isn't that
Major Strasse?
It's Casablanca.
He was awful.
Role? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Anyway, I read that just the other day. It came up as anniversary of his death or something. And a beautiful man married to a Jewish woman refused Goering's entreaties about things. Anyway, he risked his life to perform in some movies that were anti-Hitler. Anyway,
was he the
incredible.
one who said,
you're like,
why did you come to Casablanca, Rick? I came for the waters, but we are in the desert. I was misinformed.
Yeah, that's great. Major Heinrich Strasse, the actor's name.
Yeah.
Heinrich Strasse. Conrad Veidt, Veidt. An incredible man we should know more about. I just did not have any idea.
And let's not forget the Swedish-American actor Werner Oland, who played Charlie Chan. You could show
possibly more problematic.
A little more problematic.
Just if you fast forward a little bit, you can find Peter Sellers playing every race except his own.
Oh God.
And it's kind of it's so sad. It ages very badly. Very badly.
And you're too young, Glenn, and certainly you are, Ant. But Jeff and I grew up in that era.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's very wrong to say this, but I kind of miss all of those bad.
Well,
racist.
you also sympathize with Elon Musk, so that's the kind of guy you are. You know,
I kind of miss the last
I still watch Blazing Saddles and enjoy it immensely.
That's good.
But
you can't say
Saddles
that line though in public anymore, right?
Well, that is an interesting way. You can't say it's an interesting debate though, right? Because that film is. Richard Pryor co-wrote the film and he was supposed to be in it, but they couldn't. There was issues with insurance or something to get him cast or the studio. But I mean,
who was it? Levon.
Cleavon Little.
Cleavon Little.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
It's Twoo. Yeah.
And well, all right. But it's an interesting question because, I mean, Gone with the Wind is reprehensible too.
But
it's part of our culture.
You gotta watch a historic context. We're just, my wife loves Holiday Inn, and she's like, oh yeah, well, are we gonna skip over the Lincoln's birthday episode in which everyone puts on blackface? And I think when I was a kid, they'd eliminated that holiday. They just skipped over it, even though it's got some plot elements. And then as an adult, I watched it. I thought, what? Wait, what? Because it was the very end of minstrelsy being acceptable in any fashion.
Showboat's full of minstrelsy. And yet it's part of our history. I don't want to bury it. I think what MGM or Turner did eventually with it was they would put a big disclaimer in front of Gone with the Wind saying, this is old history. This is not, this is a terrible thing. Slavery was not good. These people were not happy.
I remember seeing that on a few things, actually.
As rightly so.
But you shouldn't never watch it, right? Because historically, we should know that film was made and it influenced opinions.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't watch it uncritically or
that's right.
Or
and
happily.
So you don't want a young person to watch it and think,
did you ever watch it? What did you think?
Ant, do you like Gone with the Wind?
I never watched it. I never had any interest in it. I saw bits and pieces of it. The only Gone in the Wind that I enjoyed was Miss Carol Burnett doing her.
Oh yeah, that was actually much better.
Hilarious.
That was actually
Absolutely hilarious.
But
fair.
let's not forget that it was I think the first black person to win an Academy Award.
Yes,
right. Hattie
McDaniel, who played the slave. Who helped Miss Scarlett make her dress out of curtains.
Out of a curtain.
And of course,
Same
with
time.
Carol Burnett, they accidentally left the curtain rod in.
That's right. There's a lot of great cinema, a lot of great black cinema going on in a parallel world, right? At the same time. And but fortunately some of that was preserved too. So we got to see what's happening.
Where do you see that? I would
people
love
didn't
to
have
see
to-
that.
It's YouTube. This is, look, don't get me on copyright because I'll get on this. But back a few years ago, right, we just hit the public domain day, and so material from 1927 and earlier in the U.S. that was published is now completely in the public domain. And back in 2019, 2018, I wrote an article for Smithsonian about the first year of that after a 20-year halt because of the Sonny Bono Act that Disney had promoted. There was this gap of 20 years before anything entered the public domain. And so one of the things the Smithsonian had me do was let's talk about the cultural impact. And a lot of folks I spoke to said the Harlem Renaissance was cut in half. So it started in the 1922, but it didn't really blossom until later in the 20s. So because a lot of the rights were owned by publishing houses that didn't want to publish it, or they let it go out of print and they wouldn't allow it, or there were a lot of orphaned rights. You didn't know who owned the rights. So the Harlem Renaissance lay kind of fallow, and now it's being, I haven't seen the real reevaluation you need to for that era, but because some of the stuff did remain in print. We know some of the best works from the time, but some of the stuff is also just now, because it's in the public domain, it's not like, you can share it freely or remix it. It's also, you can literally publish new editions or put PDFs up of these books that were you'd have to go to a specific library to get a copy. And same thing with film. We're going to see this incredible explosion of black cinema from the 30s and 40s that was hidden because nobody knows who owns it, or there's a print and someone doesn't want to deal with copyright issues to get it out there.
There's a good article from last year, University of California, public domain expansion last year, highlights of the Harlem Renaissance and Modernist writers in HathiTrust's newly opened volumes.
Yeah, so if you ask why were people unrepresented in certain eras in American culture, it's partly because we can't see them easily. You have to go to a library. Yeah, you have to go to a library or a film institute to see stuff because it's just not in circulation.
I think I mentioned this last episode, but some of the public domain works that are now available, Bessie Smith's songs by Louis Armstrong.
Putting on the Ritz.
And I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream.
And the jazz singer, the totally unproblematic movie, The Jazz Singer. There's nothing
Al
that I can
Jolson
think
in
of
blackface, huh? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh my God, it's Well, it's important we examine these things.
I don't want to bury him.
It is America still,
as long as they're contextualized. Yeah.
Learn from it.
I think you're right. I mean, look, not to get too on this, but it's important to understand how deeply embedded white Americans were in watching minstrelsy for such a long period. It's one of the most popular forms of culture, and I think it explains more about American history than we want to understand as white people, that this is true and it's all suppressed because it's unacceptable instead of being studied.
Yes.
Good call.
I'll get off my hobby horse now.
Next year, Mickey Mouse. Unless Sonny Bono comes back to life.
And I thought that was this year.
It's so hard to track, though, isn't it?
The first, according to Duke, which does this page every year for Public Domain Day, the first appearances of Mickey and Minnie will enter the public domain next year, January 1st. And this is
character?
Steamboat Willie, right there.
Steamboat Willie.
Yep.
Yeah, but only that depiction. I mean, Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain a year ago.
As long as he's not wearing a red coat.
Yeah, so we have that. There's a horror film, like a slasher horror film about Winnie the Pooh that's out.
But he has to be naked because Disney owns the Winnie the Pooh with the red shirt.
That's right. Bambi entered the public domain last year.
Good.
Mickey Mouse. Yeah, I mean, so the question is, there was a very good New York Times article about Steamboat Willie entering the public domain. And as I say this, and Mickey Mouse and minstrelsy is a whole other subject. I swear to God, I'll stop talking about it. Anyway, the white gloves, anyway. So,
do you think Mickey Mouse was supposed to be blackface?
Mickey Mouse is blackface. There's some really good academic articles about it. I'm sorry.
Really?
The white gloves, the exaggerated
Walt was
features.
a known racist, that's for sure.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, there's a whole book about it. In fact, that's really eye-opening about American culture. What do we love?
And that's what we lose when we don't talk about this stuff. Is how
teach it.
if you want to get rid of systemic racism, you have to recognize it. Mickey Mouse's blackface. Oh my God! At least Steamboat Willie was.
That.
It's shifted over the years. So the modern depiction less so, but if you look, there are different eras, and there's some really good academic work on it. But so Mickey Mouse. The question the New York Times raised, I think, in a really solid article about the nuance of Steamboat Willie entering the public domain, is Mickey Mouse is trademarked, and all of Mickey Mouse's later appearances and everything he said and every character trait is still under copyright from after next year from 1929 on. So Disney may aggressively defend the copyright and be like, we have a trademark.
It's
you
derivative.
Can't call it the Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
So this happened with Sherlock Holmes, but the last Sherlock Holmes stories that were copyrighted under U.S. law went into the public domain this January 1st. So now you can write about Sherlock Holmes owning a dog and having human emotions, because those appear in the last of the stories.
And you mentioned before the show, Jeff, but it's worth re-mentioning that Canada is expanding its copyright term, which is currently life plus 50 to life plus 70.
They say it's because of the free trade agreement. They have to regularize.
But Michael Geist, who is, I think, a very smart and salient attorney who writes about Canadian law, says it is a massive loss to education and to the public.
And one of the odd things about this is that Canada cares so deeply about Canadian content.
Yeah.
And so they've cut off 20 years of Canadian content that could be out there and be used more broadly.
Yeah. He says the Canadian term extension would cost Canadian education millions of dollars, would delay works entering the public domain for an entire generation, 20 more years. Even worse, the government chose to do so without mitigation measures to reduce the economic cost and cultural harm that comes from term extensions. That is unfortunate.
Geist has also been covering the Canadian versions of the Australian law,
right?
The protectionism and that stuff, and copyright. It's as bad in Canada as it is in the U.S.
Well, and as long as we're talking about racism, let's talk about face recognition, which once again is the culprit in arresting a black person who did not commit a crime. Instead of enjoying a late Thanksgiving meal with his mother in Georgia, Randall Reed spent nearly a week in jail in November.
Oh, my God.
Falsely identified as a luxury purse thief by Louisiana authorities using face recognition technologies. This is according to NOLA.com. I'm reading from the article on commondreams.org. They actually didn't want to disclose the fact that they used face recognition, but they did. And the really sad story is this guy is, he's spent a week in jail and there's no compensation for that.
It's wild.
He had nothing to do with it. Randall Reed was arrested in the June theft of luxury purses from a Metairie consignment shop, even though he'd never been to Louisiana. They pulled him over as he drove on Interstate 20 in DeKalb County, Georgia, headed to Thanksgiving with his mom. He said, they told me I had a warrant out of Jefferson Parish. I said, what's Jefferson Parish? I've never been in Louisiana a day in my life. Then they told me it was for theft. So not only have I not been to Louisiana, I also don't steal. Oh, my God. He was booked into DeKalb County Jail as a fugitive, not let go until a week later without any apology. They tacitly admitted the error and rescinded the July warrant.
Good.
Hope he gets...
You should sue.
Yeah. Good lawyer.
We've talked many times about face recognition. When we came back into the country a couple of days ago, there's a big sign saying, we're going to take your picture now. But don't worry, we're going to delete it from our databases if you're a U.S. citizen within 12 hours.
But you foreigners,
we're going to keep it forever. And they even said something. I should have taken a picture, except they would have arrested me immediately.
You're not allowed to.
but something like, but don't worry, it'll be safely stored by the federal government. So hand wavy. They're using now face recognition on everybody who comes to the United States. And the CPB officer said, okay, ladies first, Lisa, stand in front of the camera, take your picture. And it took my picture. God knows.
Well, when I traveled, I used the, because I traveled a hell of a lot, so I used all the things I could use. But the global entry, every time I went to the machine, took a picture of me every single time.
Yeah.
And they have your iris. Opted in. you specifically did I had Nexus, which includes global entry. First time I got to use it, and I did the picture thing, and I walk up and in Montreal to come back through past near Montreal, and the customs guy kind of looks at it like, you scan your face. I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay. And I was like, oh wow, all right. That was a little less. That was nothing. That's
permission. There, you gave him
That's
permission.
Great. Like, yeah, no. He said, did you? He was just asking. He looked at my ID. He looked at me. He's like, did you have your face scanned? I said, yeah. Like, all right.
Just come on in.
Into the country.
We know you're okay.
Into the cordon sanitaire.
Just the whole unintended consequences of this facial recognition, because when it works, it could work very well to solve some problems, especially with crime and finding the actual right person.
Sure.
And then you're going to have issues like this where mistakes are going to happen.
Yeah.
I got a message on Mastodon a while back. I can never remember how to say her name. It's Adriana Langston.
Oh, Adriana Langston. Yeah.
Adriana
She's great.
Langston.
Yeah, I really like her.
And she shared a story about MetaLogics. Basically, a gentleman decided to come up with a way to help fill in the gaps in the AI where the AI doesn't have enough data trained far as capturing people that look like me, black men, people of color.
That's the problem. Sure.
But at the same time, there's that bit of a panic out there, like, I don't want my face.
Yeah, do you want to volunteer, Aunt?
Right.
We need more. Come on over. Let's take your picture.
Right. So where's the balance here? I totally support putting more data in there, but I can't speak for everybody out there.
I think that the risk of false positives in a case like this is so great that it's just not. It shouldn't be used. And a lot of jurisdictions, including the city of San Francisco, have basically banned the use of facial recognition by law enforcement. Law enforcement, there's so many things law enforcement could do to make its job easier. They could put cameras in everybody's houses and watch for illegal activities.
Wait, what?
Well, they could, and it would have a salutary effect on reducing crime. But I don't think we want that. So we really have...
just in. Leo Laporte advocating for cameras put in everyone's houses.
Just in.
Yeah. That TV set should be a two-way street. Wait a minute.
You saw the insurrection thing was fascinating, though, because there was this crowdsourced motion to identify people who were in pictures from the January 7th insurrection.
That was also problematic.
But it was problematic. But here is the interesting part there versus, say, we took a picture of a random person and we told all the police everywhere. We didn't tell him where he got the ID from and arrest this person, right? This was a lot of people independently, as well as the government agencies are trying to ID folks. Some of the independent folks were using different forms of facial matching and systems, and then they would call the FBI or present it. And the FBI then did the legwork. So as far as I can tell, I haven't heard any cases, amazingly, out of almost 1,000 people have been charged in various forms, and so far, and I haven't heard a single case where it was like the FBI went out and they're like, oh, that's not me in that photo. And maybe it's happened, but I think there was an enormous amount of deliberative process to winnow down and get the right people and present it in an effective way in court, as opposed to arrest a bunch of people all at once.
And also, there's, let's face it, a long-standing tradition of if you have a picture of somebody committing a crime, put it out and say, anybody know this guy?
That's right.
I mean, these are pictures of people committing a crime. And of course, we've had wanted posters on the walls of post offices for as long as I can remember.
Yeah. So, Europeans think we're nuts about that. The perp, when I was at the Daily News, I learned about the perp walks, right? When the perp is going to get walked. And in Europe, they just I remember when a former French official, was accused of raping somebody in a hotel in New York, and then the perp walk.
Oh, yeah.
And France was just up in arms.
As they should
show his
be.
face.
As they should be. Yeah. Because this person is accused. They're not convicted.
And there's another argument that says that more transparency and openness in our criminal justice system is important, because if you hide who the people are and others don't know it. So in Germany, they put the black squares against the eyes and they don't reveal names and all of that. So there's an opacity to the criminal system.
I mean, we have a tradition of you get tried in an open court. People can go see it, and I think that's appropriate as long as everybody understands you're innocent.
That's the issue. Yes.
Yeah. Although you got to love when the person with that notorious Twitter account, Libs of TikTok, went on Tucker Carlson exposed her face for the first time, and then immediately people were like, there she is, allegedly. Yeah, well, there she is, allegedly one of the January 6th insurrectionists. They found her photo.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Did you see in the horrible Idaho case that evidently the way the police tracked the accused murderer was through DNA and open public.
They didn't have his DNA,
genealogy,
but they were able to go to genealogy places with relatives' DNA and then cross. And that's not the first time that people have been arrested that way.
Golden State Killer.
That's right. That was a big story.
Huge.
Yeah.
There's been there was this long running theory that if serial killers never stopped, right, until they were caught or died or were imprisoned, and it turns out it's not true. And a lot of the DNA stuff is finding people who did terrible acts sometimes 20, 30, 40 years ago and then stopped doing them for some, whatever psychological thing drives them, and they get found.
You are one
fun
sick
stuff.
puppy.
Sorry, fun stuff.
See what happens when we have no commercials? We get very depressed and talk about crime.
Here's some good news from the FBI. Right. Even the FBI says you should use an ad blocker. That's hysterical.
That's great. That's great.
In a pre-holiday public service announcement, the FBI said that cyber criminals are buying ads to impersonate legitimate brands like cryptocurrency exchanges, legitimate in air quotes. Ads are often placed at the top of search results, but with minimum distinction between the ads and the search results. So one of the recommendations, you might want to install an ad blocker. Cyber criminals impersonating brands using search engine advertisement services to defraud users. There's a headline guaranteed to drive engagement.
Yep.
Actually, I'm glad that the FBI has yet to discover link bait. That's probably a good thing.
Did any of you get the package tracking phishing I got over the holidays?
I got tons of that. Yeah.
I was expecting a DHL package from which I don't know if I can get DHL stuff. I got an email inbox thing that says DHL, your package is delayed, and I go, I'll just click. Wait a minute.
I've been expecting that.
Damn it! And I was like, that's not how you spell DHL.
So easy to fall for that stuff. So easy, especially. How was it spelled, by the way? Was it?
I'm just kidding. I don't know. I was kidding because it did have all the logos, but it was full of typos, and then the URL was like DHL package H7395. All hidden behind a nice looking link.
Did you see the movie yesterday? The film about I love this movie. A guy who hits his head in a bicycle accident, wakes up in a world in which the Beatles never existed, realizes I know all the Beatles songs, starts performing them as if he wrote them, becomes a huge superstar. Wonderful movie. Maybe you saw the trailer, which featured one Ana de Armas, who everybody loves, as the love interest in this movie. But she was cut out of the release because they decided that, he shouldn't have a secondary love interest. This is a love story. But she was in the trailer. Ana de Armas fans have now sued, saying it's a deceptive movie trailer. They filed a lawsuit alleging they had rented the movie after seeing de Armas in the trailer, only to discover she was cut out of the final film. Universal sought to throw out the lawsuit, saying, hey, movie trailers are entitled to broad protection under the First Amendment. The studios argued the trailer is an artistic, expressive work and thus should be considered non-commercial speech. The judge said, no, the trailer is commercial speech, subject to the California false advertising law and the state's unfair competition law. You can't advertise something. But if anybody who goes to movies knows it happens all the time. There's stuff in the trailer that never happened.
The trailers are better than the movies.
Or the quotes. I used to be, when I was a former TV critic, as you know, and I would say, what a colossal waste of time. And the quote would be colossal. Jeff Jarvis, TV Guide.
I know. I'm always coming to step every time you say that. I know you were a former TV critic because when I was a small child, I used to read you in TV Guide. I'm getting younger and younger. And
Let me tell you, Sonny.
I was 2 years old when I was reading you in TV. Little drawing of Jeff Jarvis and TV Guide. Go, Jeff Jarvis. I'm so excited to see this week's issue.
The plaintiffs each paid $3.99 to rent yesterday on Amazon Prime. By the way, I'm just going to say, even without Ana de Armas, worth the $3.99. They're seeking $5 million as representatives.
Is this her mother and father? Who is this?
I don't know. I don't know.
She get 90 cents back. 90 cents back each.
Yeah,
$3.09 fell.
So the judge has ruled that lawsuit can go ahead. I found that amusing. But the judge was very careful to say, look, this is only in the case of an actor shown in the trailer not appearing in the film. You can't say that joke didn't appear in the film. That's going a little too far. There are some limits to this. Now, there was a story, and I think we should report it because for a long time, Jeff, you and I have been defending TikTok. But there was a story while we were gone that ByteDance, and they admitted this, ByteDance found that employees had obtained the user data of two journalists. They were trying to figure out where leaks were coming from, so they got the location information from the journalists who were using TikTok to see if the leakers, anybody connected to TikTok, spoke to those reporters. They were trying to determine if the journalists were within proximity of ByteDance employees. Ooh. Those efforts failed to find any leaks, by the way. ByteDance's general counsel.
And employees were fired.
Employees were fired, but they revealed that it happened. All 4 employees in the scheme were fired, the company said, correcting an earlier statement that one of the 4 had resigned. 2 of the employees working in China, 2 in the United States, by the way. ByteDance says it's restructured its internal audit and risk team and removed any access to U.S. data from that department. But it does lend a lot of ammunition to those people who are saying, we got to ban ByteDance. We got to ban TikTok. What do you think?
I thought about the whole banning TikTok story last week during bowl week, college football bowl week, as halftime rolled up and ESPN puts up, hey, coming up at halftime, we're going to talk about this and that. And the very top banner, if you look on line 138, it shows it's brought to you by TikTok. And I'm like, how is this even possible considering so much pushback here in the U.S. leadership about TikTok?
It was the TikTok halftime report.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of TikTok ads. They've actually ramped up their ad spending in the face of this threat. As they should.
Well, okay, so I guess it's the end of the day, money talks.
Sure, it's an advertiser. It's not illegal. Mm-hmm. It's under, suspicion.
All this. I mean, that's a bad story. But the moral panic going on. There you go, Ant. I should have given you a warning.
Dang it, my bad.
The moral panic. Yeah, click the button. Thank you very much. About governments saying you can't use. A, who uses TikTok as part of their job? They got a really boring job. You're watching TikTok. Okay, but B, we're not thinking through the harm here. What is? Oh, the Chinese own it. Bad things can happen. The whole internet is being politicized in this way.
Yeah, but Jeff,
it takes away expression for people.
I understand.
We got to look at the other side of this.
I agree. And I don't think banning TikTok is the answer, but there's got to be some controls. By the way, this could have happened from Instagram. It could have happened.
But I was going to say, the same type of access could happen with the apps that are homegrown here in the U.S.
And in fact, that's why I said 2 of the employees were U.S. based. So it's
I remember Uber and Sarah Lacey. Remember that?
The God
how many
mode.
years ago? That was part of the thing that almost ended. That kind of was part of the beginning of the end for at least the head of Uber at the time.
Yeah, they had that God mode. But they had used that many times before.
Allegedly going to track a reporter.
They had used that many times before. For instance, when fighting with regulators in New York City, they banned. If you asked for a cab for an Uber in New York City and they knew who you were and you were a regulator, they said, don't pick them up.
Or they fed you a different version of the app.
Yes.
Which is amazing. Cycling back just 1 second, the facial recognition thing, that some lawyers have been banned from venues owned by like Madison Square Garden.
We talked about this.
Because
this
of
a huge story.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I was just thinking, this is that combination. It's like facial recognition being banned from a service.
With a whole company.
Yeah.
MSG really overstepped on that.
Yeah.
We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
But TikTok, I mean, there's a little bit of that interaction. It's like they're tracking, or they were ostensibly tracking people where they were. They knew about too much information about them based on.
So there is a solution here. I mean, first of all, your platform, your mobile platform, should do as Apple does. Should block that kind of thing, or at least give you information and give you the opportunity to block that kind of thing. You shouldn't have automatic location tracking without your permission ever. So I know Apple does that. Let's hope it's actually Apple's strongly enforcing it. And I don't know if Google does that. Google, of course, has been accused of, and I think properly convicted of doing the same thing, but ignoring the setting and still tracking you. We got to do something about that. Your location information is important, and you should be able to protect that, I think. Of course, one of the reasons perhaps that TikTok is being maligned is because this article from the Wall Street Journal, Google and Meta's advertising dominance fades as TikTok and streamers emerge. If they're taking money out of the mouths of those poor Googlers.
So what do we say about a duopoly, a monopoly? Nothing can happen.
Yeah.
There's competition out there, including, by the way, TikTok. And so you go unintended consequences department. You ban TikTok. You give more power to Google and Facebook.
Right.
Congratulations.
And by the way, if you look at the graph, and this is the Wall Street Journal, which always takes any shot they can at competitors. If you look at the graph of share of U.S. digital advertising revenue from 2014 through 2023, can you show that? Oh, wait a minute, I have a button. Oops. If two people press the button, we're in trouble. Look at this little slice that TikTok takes compared to the big slice. Oh, yeah, Google down just a little bit there. Oh, TikTok. I can't even hover over it. It's so small. 2.5% of the market estimated.
But Amazon's eBay's one.
Amazon's 12, 18.
Amazon's revenue is now bigger than the magazine industry worldwide. Advertising revenue.
Revenue. Oh,
yes.
Amazon. You don't even think of them as an advertising department.
No.
Yeah, it's you want to get a cable that short circuits when you buy it. Where do you go? You go to a promoted sponsored link on Amazon.
Okay, we haven't said anything about Elon Musk.
Good.
Who? I don't remember who this. Who is this?
Should we just ignore
I
it?
think this is a Schadenfreude opportunity.
First person in history to lose $200 billion, although that's kind of not really true because it was paper money. But still unrealized gains. That's kind of meaningless. It's not like he had $200 billion in his pocket and misplaced it.
Has he lost more money for other people? More money than anybody else has in history for other people. Because I was thinking it might be Zuckerberg, because Meta went down $7 or something billion. But I think if you look at all of his holdings,
Tesla's down over 65%.
That's like
Twitter,
$800 billion.
Fidelity slashed their book value on Twitter by half.
This we knew was going to come, and it's going to come from the banks too, who have lent him money.
Yeah.
That they're going to start getting this stuff off the books because they know it's a loss. Twitter is not paying its rent now, and Elon has decided not to buy toilet paper. So we've heard that Twitter employees now have to bring their own.
You know what? He's installed fiber in all the buildings. Thank you very much. All these, come on.
Where's that rim shot, man? Come on.
And apparently because they're not they fired the janitors a month ago, and nobody will go across the picket lines. Twitter's San Francisco HQ, a hub of stinky smells.
It's a good headline. Also, Twitter. It's the service, the real world, and the digital alliance.
This is from the San Francisco Chronicle. And by the way, Elon, you should never have gotten that Iron Man costume because that's all we're going to ever see from now on. They have they're without janitorial services for a month. If we cut janitorial services for a month, I can tell you it would be worse than downtown New York City during a garbage strike. According to the New York Times, the office.
No offense, staff. No offense, but
yeah, but you're right.
None taken.
The office is in disarray. No, I'm the worst. I throw food in my garbage all the time. The office is in disarray with people packed into more confined spaces. The smell of leftover takeout food and body odor has lingered on the floors. According to 4 current and former employees, bathrooms have grown dirty. These people said remaining workers reportedly bringing their own toilet paper. What's wrong with this guy? I don't feel sorry for him anymore.
They've been evicted from my Seattle focus.
Seattle,
they've
they
been
closed
evicted
the
from their
Seattle
Seattle.
office. Yep.
They're facing eviction, and so they're it sounds like they're shutting down the office here.
Yep.
Mr. Laporte, you said you don't feel sorry for him anymore. You felt sorry for him?
Don't you remember 2 episodes ago?
2 episodes ago.
I felt so bad for Elon.
And I kept going after him as a result.
Oh, man.
I honestly,
That's good.
I mean, look, he's going through something. He's He's a human.
Okay.
He's a human being. I feel bad for him. He's obviously having, he's upset. There's something wrong in his brain. It's sad. I mean, I feel worse for people who love Twitter and who have lost something very, very valuable.
Yeah.
That's a terrible shame, but
do we have bets on how long he's still in charge of it in terms of the debt thing? Like he's been selling off Tesla stock after promising not to, the decline in Tesla value, that new book value for Twitter.
Mr. Fleischman, only because he can, and no one's going to hold his feet to the fire as far as enforcing.
No, the banks aren't going to come after him.
Well, wait. Now, here's what I think happens. Right, the equity holders lose, the Saudis lose, but the banks put in $13 billion, which is about what Twitter is worth. And so at the end of the day, if the debt holders end up out of bankruptcy owning Twitter, it ain't a bad deal for them. How did Alden take over the newspaper industry in the U.S.? They bought their bad debt.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Mastodon now is up to 9 million active users.
Or users. Accounts. I don't think that's active.
Right. I don't know if do they have a, I mean, there's no central anything, so we don't know necessarily the
way this information comes from scraping. I mean, you can go to twit.social and see how many users we have. I know how many active users we have. That information is available to Mastodon administrators. So I don't know where they're getting that 9 million.
What's the proportion like, Leo?
Well, you could see right here, and every Mastodon administrator has this dashboard. We have almost 5,000 active
that's great.
users, which is, it's up 2% from last week. But this is just a week's worth of information. But
how many accounts? You have that information?
Yeah, I can tell you. So what was that? Remember that almost 5,000, and the total account number. That's personal. Let's go to the administrative interface and look at the accounts. Oh, I can't remember how to do this. Let's see. I can go to this dashboard here.
I'll go to
click
Jake.
this button here. Yes, Jake's running his own, isn't he?
He's running his own, and he's working for Hugo too.
Yeah. Oh, he is the owner of Masto Host.
Masto Host.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mastodon's becoming a lot like the best parts of Twitter, just a little quieter.
I love it. It's not even quieter in some respects.
You're right. It's not. I don't find it as much of a. I mean, I'm following. Well, I'll tell you. The funny thing is, look, I have my social media presence is you got a Glenn F. If you look down there, there's an @ Glenn F. there. Oh, that's my old. Well, it's @ Glenn F.
You have a lot of Glenn F's. There are Glenn F's everywhere. Yeah.
@ Glenn F. @twit.social, I should say. But I'm now at closing on a third of the number of people following me on Mastodon as on Twitter, which is bizarre to me. It means that people are finding me or following me or whatever, and it's great. But I post something, I tweet something on Mastodon that I think is mildly interesting or funny or whatever, and it's like, whoa, dozens of people, hundreds of people respond, and I'm like, this wasn't happening on Twitter.
Yeah.
People are a little more bored. There's less going on, so if you do something,
you
get a little more response maybe too. But
more like an autopilot as far as social media goes. I'm literally just throwing stuff in an automatic queue and walking away. I'm not really checking.
You don't see that when I boost you? I boost you all the time. You don't notice that?
I can't say that I've been looking, sir. It's just I guess it's a mood I've been in here recently. I just sort of staying away because it just don't feel right nowadays.
It's healthy though.
I signed up for Friendica too today.
To whom?
Friendica, which is their version of the
it's also
Activity
Pub. Yeah.
Okay.
Version of stuff. And it's pretty nice, actually. So I'm friendly Jeff Jarvis there.
Yeah, we ran an Identica server for a long time. That was the Twit Army server. So Activity Pub is been around since 2007, I think, almost as old as Twitter. And there have been a variety of Twitter-like iterations, including Identica, then Status Net, and GNU Social is ActivityPub. There's a lot of. This is a very rich arena, actually, as it turns out. Mastodon gets all the attention, but there's a lot of
Friendica sounds like a very mellow strain of marijuana.
Yeah, it does.
I'm on Friendica right now. It makes me feel pretty good.
Makes me happy.
It's very relaxing. Hey, let's do a quick. One other Mastodon story I should mention. Of course, VCs have now flocked to Mastodon.
I was going to mention that.
And the creator of Mastodon, who has so far turned down all offers and says he has no plans on selling out.
And he pays himself only, I think, 3,000 euros a month.
Yeah, which is
they are a GmbH, which I had to look up. So the GmbH is the GmbH, right? It's the German. It's like a limited liability company, corporation. But a GmbH is or GmbH. Sorry. It's company with limited liability is the nonprofit version. I was like, I didn't realize that.
So it's like I think it's is it a public benefit corporation style or is it 501c3 or?
It seems like a slightly different animal. So I don't think there's a direct. I mean, it's nonprofit. I think they have to conform to different rules than a corporation does. But it seems more similar to like an LLC than a nonprofit company would be in America. A nonprofit organization would be here. So I think they have more flexibility in what they do, but they have to conform to rules that ensure they're not spending money.
The other thing that's very good news, and you should keep in mind, is even if Eugen decided, I'm gonna cash out and I'm gonna get Mark Andreessen to give me $1 billion, nobody would care. We would fork. Yeah. It's open source.
Right.
We'd fork it, and we'd just go on and say, "Have fun, Eugen. Take your money and run." But we will continue to run an open source version of Mastodon without, and I think there'd be plenty of people who would take it over and keep it running, including Hugo, who runs Masto Host. I think that's and your son. I don't think that's a problem. So here's Friendica. So you said you liked it?
Yeah, I mean it's different. So, but you can't see it unless you sign in.
Right.
You should sign up for it because it does have Facebook pieces, right? You can put up photos, and media. And so on. I mean, I don't want to confuse people and have when they search for Jeff Jarvis, they follow me there. So I'm kind of keep it pretty sparse.
Oh, I see.
But I wanted to see what it was like, and the only way I could see it was by signing up.
Nice.
It's nice. I signed up for forgetting now what the name of it is. So I was very egotistical of me now. I follow myself twice.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I had to do with
PixelFed.
PixelFed. I had to do that.
Yeah. I'm on PixelFed. Friendica has a lot of servers, actually. There are 238 servers, not as many as Mastodon, which is up to, I think, 9,000 or something. 123 English language servers, many of which are actually not in the U.S., but it looks like a lot of German hosts. Interesting.
This is a very interesting. I mean, I saw someone post a chart of the Federated or the Fediverse.
Oh yeah,
and it was one of those.
Diverse.
I mean, when people put those large charts together of like the advertising, digital advertising infrastructure, and sometimes you're like, I don't even understand what some of these tiers are. Right? There's 47,000 companies, and the Fediverse is nowhere near that big, but it's kind of delightful to start seeing these different kinds of aspects of it built out, all of with that same. I mean, I don't know. People are very dubious about it because of onboarding, and I think onboarding seems to be a problem that will be solved if it reaches a certain point, because people will make their own kind of thing, probably with paid options, that is an easier onboarding process, and people will migrate. The big head always winds up in the places where things are easier. So you'll have some very, very large instances of everything where they've made a very easy onboarding process and they're charging something to offer tech support and some other limited features.
Yeah. Here's the many branches of the Fediverse that you were talking
that's a great
about.
chart.
That's the Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for finding that.
So you have WordPress on there. So let me. So Tony Stubblebine, who's now the CEO of Medium, he came on this last week and said, because they have a Medium.social. People said, "Ooh, what are you going to do?" And he said, "Well, we're trying to figure this out."
Yeah, that's exciting.
So I said, what I would want is to be able to have an account similarly as to Friendica or PixelFed, that my Medium account is on ActivityPub, but it posts maybe a sample of a post or something like that.
That's a good idea.
I can subscribe to people on Medium.
What a great idea.
And see when they do something new.
I love that.
So then I brought Kevin Marks into the discussion. Of course, Kevin went on and on and on and on with 100 things that you should do if you do IndieWeb properly, but it's good to educate them. And so they're trying to figure this out. First, I just saw it has an instance up.
Tumblr has said, which is of course automatic as well. Matt has always been a supporter of open source and the Fediverse. Tumblr said they're going to become part of the Fediverse, so a Tumblr account would be also on ActivityPub. And WordPress now has a very easy to use plugin, so it's easy if you have a WordPress blog to have it automatically post to the Fediverse.
What does it post?
What you get to choose. I mean, it's obviously not the whole thing. Well, I guess it could be the whole thing. I haven't looked at
some instances. Yeah. There's also this sort of validates Manton Reese's philosophy. He started micro.blog.
Yeah.
I mean, that was years ago. He was like, people want something that's a blog that's a little like Twitter, and it's not Twitter. And this is this whole new thing. And now, as the world of the Fediverse grows, like, oh, well, microblog is already plugged into it. You can just like subscribe to people's microblog feeds on your Mastodon client or whatever. And it's like, oh, this is neat. This is where you get different parts of these universes linking up.
It was so great to watch Kevin at work. Upholding the standards of the IndieWeb and saying, this is how you should do this, and this is how you should do that, and here's why.
Manton has always been very active as well in the IndieWeb movement. I actually have a microblog account. I've had one ever since day one. It was a Kickstarter, I think. But it's a great idea. Here's some bells I heard in Valencia, Spain, and you put the audio on. I said, well, maybe it's not working, but anyway, I think it's a really it's a nice idea. Here I am interviewing Bill Atkinson, so I haven't used it a lot.
There's some new writer leaf. There's write this, write that. There's just some really simple medium like interfaces for writing.
I would argue it's better to use those than something like Post, because Post is owned by Andreessen Horowitz, basically.
Yep.
And it's central. And I see a lot of journalists going there, and I think you're just repeating the same old mistake.
They're repeating. Yep. And I tried to convince Noam on federating. And he might do it eventually, but not now. And he argued,
they're centralized. They don't want to. That's against their religion. Mike Masnick wrote a really good piece saying, have we learned nothing? This is, and I think this is one of the big lessons.
As usual.
I was on Floss Weekly this morning talking about some of the lessons open source has taught us in 2022. I know, Ant, you were there.
Yes, sir.
And I think there were two big news stories towards the end of the year, but one was the collapse of Twitter. The other is the collapse of LastPass. That there's a lesson here that centralized closed source proprietary solutions aren't guaranteed to serve you, but open source distributed solutions will always serve you. And so I really think that there are.
Or if they don't, you know it, and you
move on.
People will know what to do about it.
Yeah. So I agree with Mike Masnick that let's learn the lesson of Twitter.
If the world would just listen to Mike, things would be a lot.
He's got my vote for benign dictator.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Mr. Fleischman was talking about the onboarding process, and it got me thinking about, brands again. And I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, but let's look at someone like the San Francisco 49ers or look at Manchester United, big brands. A gazillion people follow those folks quite passionately on all of the different social media platforms. And they decide, we're going to go to the Fediverse. All right, so how are we going to get those folks from these centralized platforms over to the Fediverse? What would their strategy be to get people over there? I don't even know where to begin just to get my family to hop off these centralized.
So when you're talking to brands, platforms. I will tell you the lesson that I learned, which is a related lesson. When you're a broadcaster, you think in terms of audience. And it's one to many, and you want to build as many people as possible. And certainly the 49ers want to do that, et cetera. And of course, that's a natural thing. But I have found, and Twit was the lesson here, that community trumps audience. And the Niners and the Niners know this a little bit because of the faithful and the tailgate. But they could really double down on community. And
Amen.
I think in the long run, that serves any brand better. because those people are brand loyal. They're, and I think a lot of brands try to have it both ways. They go, we've got our, what do they call them? The P1, brand lovers, and we're going to support them and encourage them and send them swag and whatever, maybe the season ticket holders. And then we're going to also use the NFL and have a broad network audience, and maybe that's fine. But for instance, if I think the NFL probably shouldn't abandon Twitter or Facebook or anywhere, or 49ers, but they should certainly, it would be very interesting if they created a Mastodon for their super fans.
Mm-hmm.
Fans do that. The fans do that. The fans if you go to Reddit,
doing that.
There's a 49ers subreddit that is fantastic.
That's true.
It's full of memes and fun stuff, and I love it.
Yeah, and I think there's a bunch of opportunities, right? One is just to have a presence and bring information and bring things to people. Two is to have a community, a customer service presence, right? I had problems with my Fios wasn't working, and I couldn't get anybody to call. I go on Twitter. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
New Year's Day.
Yep.
New Year's Day, somebody comes.
Quick.
I said, I don't really need a New Year's Day. They said, no, we're going to do it, right?
Depending
so customer
on who
service.
You are, I should say.
Then I think the third is, in certain cases, brands like Twit, to do exactly what Leo is doing, which is to share the load of the Fediverse and create a home for all his fans, like Glenn Fleischman, is a great and generous thing to do, and does, as you know, community manager, does more to bring the community together and gather around the fire. I think that's an opportunity.
For Twit, it's the whole deal. It's and for any I think independent podcaster, that should be the whole deal. Obviously for the 49ers it's not. But if your fans are, look at this is the 49ers subreddit. If your fans, this is not the 49ers. If your fans are doing this, support them and give them a home. Why is Reddit owning this? Why aren't the 49ers owning this,
Right. Right. Set up an instance. I wonder who would be the first to do this with some actual plan, and not just saying, all right, we're on the Fediverse, here it is, but, actually have some type of execution plan to make it a community. I wonder who will be the first to do that.
By the way, one of the great victories of the 49ers subreddit is this young woman who's, I think she's in Europe, who when Jimmy Garoppolo, who was our quarterback last year, the rumors were he was going to be traded, and she started doing a drawing of Jimmy G every day until he gets traded. He wasn't traded. He became our starting quarterback, and then got injured. Day 336, every single day, she's been putting up a new drawing.
Amazing.
That's not the Niners. That's what amazing. Community does.
That's community.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And then you see people like George Lucas trying to shut that stuff down, and you just go, you don't get it. You just don't get it. George has, I think, changed his tune, but he used to be horrifically litigious.
Well, he doesn't own the copyrights anymore, right?
Yeah,
so it's Disney.
Disney now.
Disney has an interesting, different relationship. Same thing with the
community, don't they? Yeah.
Paramount too, like Paramount and Star Trek was always they're like those fan shot Star Trek sequels, and as long as money wasn't exchanging hands, Paramount kind of let it go.
It's good for you.
Really sweet.
It's good for you. One last Twitter story. One of the last remaining executives from pre-Elon Twitter has left the building yesterday. According to platformer Zoe Schiffer, they've really got the stuff. Ben-Nam Reze, who is Twitter's head of product and engineering, worked there since 2017, has walked out the door. So there is now...
The acting head of HR just walked out too.
According to Zoe and platformer, there is now no longer anybody in power there who used to work for anybody but Elon. Elon has... What his goal was, obviously, from day one, is surrounded himself with sycophants.
It happens. Yeah.
Do you remember when the Trump folks moved to the White House? They were so contemptuous of doing any transition stuff with the outgoing Obama people. They couldn't figure out how to turn the lights on in the room in which the cabinet meets. And I just thought that's kind of where Musk is like, I just tore out a bunch of servers from this room. I'm gonna take an axe to some servers in New Zealand or whatever.
How do we flush the toilets in this place?
That's right.
Katie Marcotte,
Fire the janitors.
who was a tenured Twitter employee and the acting head of human resources, also left. And this is one of the reasons, this is Casey Newton's tweet, this is one of the reasons it's going to be hard to figure out who gets paid when.
Oh, no.
And it may be that they're not paying the rent only because no one knows how to write that check. I don't, it's completely possible. Completely possible. I wouldn't want to be in HR at Twitter right now, so I don't blame Katie Marcotte for leaving. All right, that's enough of that. But I guess we kind of still have to cover it a little bit. But
again, it's news.
At this point, my attitude is it's a lost cause. What are you going to do? Have fun over there.
Yeah.
But you still use it, Ant, to great effect, I think. So
I will still continue to use it, but even like I said a few minutes ago, right now I'm just sort of on autopilot just with social media in general.
Yeah,
that's regardless of it being Twitter or I'm just sick of some of the.
It's not a pleasant
mental stuff that you have to battle with over there.
It's funny because Taylor Lawrence, and you probably saw this, Jeff, came over to Mastodon and said, "Well, journalists are never going to use this if you don't have quote tweets." And
oh boy!
And another feature which actually Mastodon does have, and I responded, "Okay, see ya," because my attitude is, you don't come in here and say, "Well, hey, if you don't have this, I'm leaving." And then she did leave. She's
okay. All right, but let me just make an argument back because I've been in the middle of these discussions and I'm going to have an event coming up on Black Twitter, and this is I saw. What's his name? Oh hell, the Adam Curry spoke to one of the scholars
who runs an instance. He has no agenda.
I know he does.
Yeah.
So I saw him live go after Dr. Jonathan Flowers, who's one of the experts on Black Twitter, and the discussion about quote tweets is not just the affordance itself. The discussion is also about the reception that people have received from certain obnoxious white boy geeks on Mastodon, and that's a lot of the issue. Is that both sides? Yes, there's things to respect in how Mastodon did it, but there's also things to respect in a community coming and saying, "Are you going to value the perspective that we bring?"
That's not how she came in.
Don't.
She came in and said,
"I'm not talking about that.
Journalists are going to leave if you don't do this." And that's exactly the wrong way to do it. And by the way, what I realized, and I got in a conversation with her, but what I realized is she came with a Twitter mindset that what you do on these social networks is stir the pot, and she was happy to stir the outrage. And that's exactly what we
What happened instead, though, there was a really good substantive discussion about the pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
By the way, Eugen said again today that he has changed his mind yesterday considerably from 2018 and he says we are now discussing some version of quote tweet.
I don't think
that's the way it happens.
Yeah, I don't think it's that important.
You can turn
one way or the other.
I mean, people should have the ability to, there's one of the debates. I'll say my strategy, by the way, was when this raged, it was like one of the second, I think John Mastodon was the first thing that filled my timeline. It was like, it was funny for 5 minutes, goodbye. And then the quote tweet thing happened. I was like, oh, I have a strategy because there's a lot of good, easy granularity on Mastodon. I just muted anybody who brought up quote tweets. I just muted them for 3 days.
Yeah.
And I waited for the fever to pass.
Totally
doable. Yeah. Once it had burned out, then people were having slower and better conversations about it, and I could follow them.
Yeah. I mean, you Twitter, Mastodon, you're really much more in control. And because it is small, every instance is smaller. It never gets overpowering. But I don't think that there's an argument about, we want to take over for Twitter or we need to have this feature or that feature. That's not necessary. They're just little communities. And I love our little twit.social community.
But there was a really interesting discussion about search and the quote tweets and search are the two things that the originators of Mastodon decided not to have because it would lead to bad behavior.
Search is technically difficult. There's actually good reasons.
That's the other
search
issue
is not there,
especially in a federated world.
Yeah, and so search, you can as a Mastodon owner, and I do turn on Elasticsearch, which allows you to search within our Twit social instance.
And within your own tweet, your own
stuff. And so that I think is adequate. To search the entire Fediverse would be very, very costly. Most of the Fediverse does not exist on my server. The only part of the Fediverse that exists is things people on my server have subscribed to. So yeah, you could search that. By the way, that is a problem with decentralization. For instance, people can reply to me and I don't see the reply if no one on my server follows them. So there are
is that what's happening?
There are large technical issues. But if you think about it, it's like email. I only have on twit.social stuff that people have fetched. I'm not going out and fetching the entire Fediverse because it's too big. It's too costly. So we only have stuff people have followed. So yes, if somebody on another server that no one follows responds to you, you're not going to see it. Unless you follow them or somebody else follows them. Yeah.
Since you always answer my Fediverse questions so brilliantly.
I am not an expert, Twitter started, I'll give you my best answer.
But you know a hell of a lot more than I do. Twitter started without search and had to buy it, and did. But even so, the search was never great. And I often used Google to search Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Now, for all the architectural reasons you've just gone through, this would not be easy. But if Google is Google, could Google decide, cultural issues aside, protests aside, could there be a way in which they could scrape all of
They already
Mastodon?
are. They already are. In your server settings, as somebody who has a Mastodon instance, you can allow it to be searched or not.
And so we know Google does it.
And so, yes. So it's. I'm trying to find where it is. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a little hard to figure out. But there is a ability to say, no, don't make this. Here it is. Allow unauthenticated access to public timelines.
So that's what that means.
Logged out visitors will be able to browse the most recent public. Unless that's turned on, Google can't spider you.
Okay.
And then I think there are other settings. As I remember, there are other settings that you can turn on.
Well, that's also what comes up on your your homepage for unsigned in people.
Yeah, if you're not logged in, normally you would see that, but some sites say I don't want people to come looking for content, so we're not going to make that available. Look, everybody and Glenn, you started to refer to some sites allow 5,000 word posts. We don't, because that's insane.
That's a blog. That's a Medium essay.
But there's an argument for that. You can do anything you want with this. It's open source. You can change it any way you want.
I think the quote tweet thing, given that I muted everybody, I should have no opinion on this, but it was, I think something that's emerged is talking about, again, Mastodon and control or Fediverse and control, is that if there were an option that people could either opt in or opt out, maybe on an instance basis in terms of which is the default from allowing yourself to be quote tweeted, that helps. Mastodon has more and better visibility parameters than Twitter ever had in terms of when you post an item, how it gets indexed or shown to other people. And I think Twitter has adopted some of those before it imploded. But I think the idea that you could say, I don't want this post or I don't want my account to be quote tweeted if you feel it's contributing to abuse.
There you go.
That's right. And
I suspect that's what Guardrail will probably do, something like that.
Yeah, which should be great. Then an entire instance could be like, we are not enabling
quote tweets here.
Quote tweet here. You're going to have to
or
do
an individual user or an individual post.
Right. I love it. Why not? And then it becomes a choice. So if you want to be part of a broader discussion, you're a reporter, you're a news outlet, you're somebody who's a public intellectual like Jeff Jarvis, the Craig Newmark professor of I can't remember the whole thing. Then you can post things, and you want that to be repeated.
So just, Jeff, to show you that you can, in fact, use Google to search an instance, I entered in Google site:/twit.social and Rust, and here's a lot of posts from twit.social about
Rust never sleeps.
You can only do it instance edit by instance.
Well, you certainly can do that. It means that it's in the index, so I don't know how highly Randy Weidell's post on Rust will.
I guess what'll happen is when you search for Randy Weidell
there you
Google
go.
For any purpose, will a Mastodon item come up?
Yes. Good. There you go.
Which I haven't seen yet, but it's small.
Yeah. It's being indexed, I guess, is the point. And so whatever happens to stuff that Google's indexes, let me see if I search Google. If I search for Chief Twit, I'm going to find Elon, unfortunately. No, there it goes. It shows my Twitter account It shows Reuters talking about Elon's chief twit.
Push your button, sir.
I got it here. So Journa.host, Judd Legume, is quoting me on Mastodon, and it came up in the first screen load. So, yeah, Google is searching.
Yeah, so that's good news.
Yeah, I think so. It'll cause some people to scream bloody murder, but I think it's good news.
You can turn it off. That's the good news.
Wow, there's actually a lot here.
As a Masto administrator, you just turn it off. And then Google.
So I just searched Jeff Jarvis Mastodon.
By the way, that's true for any site. You just put a no robots.
Yeah.
No robots allowed.
Yeah.
Hachyderm.
I think this is the beauty of decentralization.
World.
You get to do what you want. You get to, and if I decide I don't like quote tweets because it's really heating up the conversation on twit.social, I'll turn it off. And if
I don't like you for doing that, I'll leave your server.
And you go anywhere else.
Right.
You can go somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah. That seems like the right way to do things. That's the way it used to be before a few big companies dominated this stuff.
So Elon Musk did us all a favor.
Absolutely.
By pointing us back to that world.
Maybe that's his plan.
I think it was Jack's plan.
Give him kudos for that.
No. Between the two of you, Leo giving him sympathy and you giving him respect. No. No.
I think we should just stop this show right now. Goodbye. Yeah. It's over. No. All right. I'll let you do picks of the week, and then the hammer will fall. Hey, everybody. Leo Laporte here. I am the founder and one of the hosts at the Twit Podcast Network. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we do here at Twit, because I think it's unique. And I think for anybody who is bringing a product or a service to a tech audience, you need to know about what we do here at Twit. We've built an amazing audience of engaged, intelligent, affluent listeners who listen to us and trust us when we recommend a product. Our mission statement as Twit is to build a highly engaged community of tech enthusiasts. Boy, already your ears should be perking up at that, because highly engaged is good for you. Tech enthusiasts, if that's who you're looking for, this is the place. We do it by offering them the knowledge they need to understand and use technology in today's world. And I hear from our audience all the time, part of that knowledge comes from our advertisers. We are very careful. We pick advertisers with great products, great services, with integrity, and introduce them to our audience with authenticity and genuine enthusiasm. And that makes our host-read ads different from anything else you can buy. We are literally bringing you to the attention of our audience and giving you a big, fat endorsement. We like to create partnerships with trusted brands who are in it for the long run, long-term partners that want to grow with us. And we have so many great success stories. Tim Broom, who founded IT Pro TV in 2013, started advertising with us on day one, has been with us ever since. He said, quote, "We would not be where we are today without the Twit network." I think the proof is in the pudding. Advertisers like IT Pro TV and Audible that have been with us for more than 10 years, they stick around because their ads work. And honestly, isn't that why you're buying advertising? You get a lot with Twit. We have a very full service attitude. We almost think of it as kind of artisanal advertising, boutique advertising. You'll get a full service continuity team. People who are on the phone with you, who are in touch with you, who support you with everything from copywriting to graphic design. So you are not alone in this. We embed our ads into the shows. They're not added later. They're part of the shows. In fact, often they're such a part of our shows that our other hosts will chime in on the ad saying, "Yeah, I love that." Or just the other day, one of our hosts said, "Man, I really got to buy that." That's an additional benefit to you because you're hearing people our audience trusts saying, "Yeah, that sounds great." We always over-deliver on impressions, so you know you're going to get the impressions you expect. The ads are unique every time. We don't pre-record them and roll them in. We are genuinely doing those ads in the middle of the show. We'll give you great onboarding services, ad tech with pod sites that's free for direct clients. gives you a lot of reporting, gives you a great idea of how well your ads are working. You'll get courtesy commercials. You actually can take our ads and share them across social media and landing pages. That really extends the reach. There are other free goodies too, including mentions in our weekly newsletter that's sent to thousands of fans, engaged fans who really want to see this stuff. We give you bonus ads and social media promotion too. So if you want to be a long-term partner, introduce your product to a savvy, engaged tech audience. Visit twit.tv/advertise. Check out those testimonials. Mark McCrary is the CEO of Authentic. You probably know him, one of the biggest original podcast advertising companies. We've been with him for 16 years. Mark said the feedback from many advertisers over 16 years across a range of product categories, everything from razors to computers, is that if ads and podcasts are going to work for a brand, they're going to work on Twitch shows. I'm very proud of what we do because it's honest, it's got integrity, it's authentic, and it really is a great introduction to our audience of your brand. Our listeners are smart, they're engaged, they're tech savvy, they're dedicated to our network, and that's one of the reasons we only work with high integrity partners that we've personally and thoroughly vetted. I have absolute approval on everybody. If you've got a great product, I want to hear from you. Elevate your brand by reaching out today at advertise@twit.tv. Break out of the advertising norm. Grow your brand with host-read ads on twit.tv. Visit twit.tv/advertise for more details, or you can email us advertise@twit.tv if you're ready to launch your campaign now. I can't wait to see your product. So give us a ring. Do you have, Mr. Glenn Fleischman, star of Stage, Screen, and Typewriters, a pick of the week for us?
I did, and then I've forgotten what it was.
Well, that was 5 hours ago. I don't blame you. Yes.
Come back to me and I'll get it for you.
Okay. Mr. What's his name? Jeff Jarvis. Do you have a number?
All right.
We used one of them already.
I did. I'm going to also just say this. People make fun of me on the show for not liking bridges, for being scared of bridges.
Oh, I don't make fun of you.
Bridges.
That's I understand.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
The Golden Gate Bridge is in, and I quote, fair condition.
Oh.
Fair condition.
Yeah.
If you were in the hospital in fair condition, you wouldn't walk over somebody because they kind, no. The Golden Gate Bridge is in fair condition. I'm not insane, people.
But good news, the infrastructure bill has allocated $400 million.
Tell me when it's done.
To nothing yet. It's still in fair condition. But apparently, now actually this should scare you, it has not been retrofitted for earthquake protection.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think you don't want to be on the bridge if there's an earthquake, although it survived the 89 quake just fine. The Bay Bridge, I have to say, did not.
Well, it did not. I will not drive over that. Never again.
Famously.
I nearly had a heart attack just driving across.
My
I also,
father
in
was
honor
on
of Glenn's presence here, I wanted to mention, I didn't realize how much Google Fonts had grown. I followed somebody on Mastodon who works on Google Fonts. Oh, my Lord, what a resource that is.
Oh, wow.
It's great. They now coordinate a lot of open source fonts.
They're great fonts. It does slow a site down if you use Google Fonts on your site because they have to load from Google. Which I'm not crazy about.
Well, you could load them. You can load them locally.
Cache them.
Yeah,
I guess you can cache them.
Yeah. Well, you can download them. They're I think all the fonts they list are free and
absolutely.
So you can put them on your own server and link them locally if you want.
1,474 open source font families with APIs for convenient use via CSS and Android. I've used Google Fonts in the past, and I really think they're great.
I didn't know how much it had grown.
Google has think about this as an Adobe subscriber, so I have all of their fonts. It's amazing. But wow, this is nice.
Google has also spent they have not released the amount of money, but it is clearly tens of millions of dollars over the last, I think we're up to like 9 years with their Noto font project, N-O-T-O, which stands for not tofu, because you put the little there's a little rectangular box you sometimes get, and people call it tofu if there's not a character for it. So not tofu, Noto, and they've been producing glyphs for every language in the world represented in Unicode, little by little, and in a uniform character design across all the sets. And they said Monotype and Adobe and independent font factories. And I interviewed people involved years ago, and they were like, well, we found Tibetan monks to talk to them about how you turn this calligraphic writing into something that would be representative to Tibetan readers, because there was no consistent single version of Tibetan in like a font way. It was always written. And anyway, very interesting stuff. And that's all free too.
I will tie this
I want to give a shout out
with my pick of the week real quickly. I'll throw this in. You know his name, Eric Spiekerman, right, Glenn?
Yeah.
He
Oh, yes.
one of the great, just turned 75. He wrote one of the great books on fonts, which anybody who's interested in typefaces should read, just at least for the baseline knowledge. And he's teamed up with Google Design to give away. And by the way, I've bought 2 or 3 copies anyway of this book. I give it to people all the time. Stop Stealing Sheep and Find Out How Type Works. So you can go and download this. I mean, you should buy the book because it's a book and it's a nice book. But if you're interested without spending any money on learning about fonts and typefaces, this is fantastic. And I know you agree, Glenn. And thank you, Google Design, Google Fonts, for making this available. Yeah, they really did a nice job.
I was going to get together with Eric in Berlin, where he has a letterpress studio called P98A, of course, for reasons. I think that's the address. It's at Potsdamer Platz or something. And but he was out of the country. He was out of Germany, so I did not see his shop on this trip.
Yeah,
so I was going to say that Glenn has been giving me very kind advice on the typography for my book.
Oh, good.
Being a Gutenberg book, I care about this. So I've just selected, I'm going to have the Doves font for the headings, which is a magnificent story we talked about before, and Saban, I don't know how you're supposed to say it, Glenn, for the body type. But I also wanted drop initials and other things. So I was asking Glenn, where do I go? And I got all kinds of great advice from folks online. And I've got 2 choices for the publisher now. And they're letting me do this, which is really kind of cool, to have a voice in the font choices. And at the end of the book, I'm going to have a colophon describing all that.
Yay. If you want,
I don't know that people on Mastodon would have any opinions about typefaces or swashes or capitals. That seems impossible to me.
If you go to design.google, there's a link right there on the front page. An interview with Eric Spiekerman and a link to Google Fonts' very generous donation of fonts. Rather, his book all about fonts. And so you agree it's a good way to get started, at least in fonts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Creative Commons license, which is great. You can give it to your friends without guilt. So good. I don't know. I'll give you that pick, Glenn, if you want to use that for yours.
No, I remember.
You know
mine,
the guy.
You can take Ant first, and I'll come
okay.
last.
Jeff, are you done with your pick?
I'm done.
Okay.
Well, I could go on if you want me to, but
no, stop. Just don't go on the Golden Gate Bridge. It's not upgraded yet. But when it is, I hope you'll come up and see us, because you do need to go over the Golden Gate Bridge to come visit Twit. I think you could do the Bay Bridge, but you won't do that. You could
take the ferry to Sausalito.
There you go. Those almost never sink, so I think you're all right.
Almost never.
Actually, the best
guys getting flooded right now.
Yeah.
Never.
The best place to be in an earthquake would be on a ferry, I would think, unless there's a tsunami.
Unless there's a tidal waves.
I don't know. The best place to be is in New Jersey.
In Bedminster. Ant, your pick of the week.
I had one in there, but we already discussed it. And it was the whole TikTok ad at halftime, but my actual pick this time will be to watch Coach Prime's docuseries on Amazon. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, I know you folks don't care about sports, but Deion Sanders, love him or hate him, is a fascinating man.
So he's Coach Prime is Deion Sanders?
That is correct, sir.
Oh, Deion. All right.
His story, being a sports fan and following him since I was a teen, I've always loved watching him play and watching his story and what he has done at Jackson State University, historically black college and university, and now what he's attempting to do at Colorado University in Boulder. I know you.
Oh, that's my son went.
Affinity there.
Yeah,
that's right.
The Buffs.
It's such a fascinating story, and I hate that he has gotten just as much hate and vitriol as he's gotten the accolades.
Why?
Especially from the black community. because a lot of folks are saying he, quote, sold out by leaving Jackson State to take the job in Colorado, when this dude had $1 gazillion already. He's not there for the paycheck.
Yeah, I was going to say going to Jackson State is, he could probably work in the front office of any football NFL team, is a big deal. That's a great donation. That's a contribution.
Right.
Yeah.
He did a lot for that university in the athletic programs there, as well as a lot for the HBCUs and the conference there. Just put a lot more positive attention on those schools. Hopefully they'll be able to get more money and make things better with facilities and so forth. And the next challenge was to go to a Power 5 school and try to build a winning football team there. That's not selling out. That's just someone that's taking another challenge, as well as taking an opportunity to help enrich some young men and women's lives in the world of football. My son and I, we've been watching this journey, and he and I have talked about it, and I've told him straight up, I said, man, if you ever get the opportunity to learn from someone like Deion Sanders, I'm all for it. So why would I hate on him and seeing what he's done in his past? He's got some funny, crazy stories, but from a success standpoint, everywhere he's been, it's been a success.
It seems appropriate that prime time should be on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. He had ESPN showing up at Jackson State University to do their college game day show on Saturday mornings. That's a big freaking deal. Yeah. And he's like, y'all not here for Jackson State. You're here because I'm here, and I asked you to come here because I need you to see this. Good. I get it.
And also a top 10 view on Amazon Prime, so you're not alone in watching it. I can't wait to watch it. He was a Niner, and Lisa probably, as soon as I say this, will be watching it tonight. So, so that's good. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't know about it. That's great. That's great.
And lastly, it's the beginning of the year, so it should be mentioned. I know a lot of you Twit listeners check out Wikipedia. Make sure you donate. Give them $2.
Hell yeah.
$5, something. Yep. So go ahead and donate to Wikipedia.
Single best example of what decentralization and community can do is Wikipedia. I mean, one of the best things on the internet. It's fantastic, and I donate every month because we use it so much. Yeah. I feel like it'd be awful of me not to give them a little something every month. Yeah, right. Good advice. Wikipedia. They don't have the handout this month. They did last month. So, but you can still donate, and
it's on there somewhere.
Just go to contributions,
/donate or something.
Yeah. No, that's user contributions. I don't know. It is such a great site. Oh, I love it. In fact, a good place to go for news, by the way, if you go to the front page. Believe it or not, they do an excellent job covering the news. Do you remember now, Glenn?
I remember. It's a great story.
Are you now, or were you ever a member of the Communist Party?
It was. The answer is I refuse to answer on the grounds that it may incriminate me.
Have you no shame, Mr. Fleischman? Okay, sorry.
Representative-elect, as we record this, representatives, the House of Representatives, are elect because they have not yet been sworn in, because as we record this, only 6 votes have been taken for the speaker's chair. It may be 100 by the time if you're not watching live, by the time this goes out. So Robert Garcia, a very lovely person, it sounds like. Story went around a couple days ago. He was going to be sworn in. They showed a stack of things that people would be sworn in on: Bibles, family Bibles. There might be a Quran in there. There has been in years past. Other things. Superman issue number 1, not Action Comics, but Superman. And people are like, who is there? Blah blah blah. And I was like, that seems a little trivial. And then you're like, it was borrowed from the Library of Congress, which Congress people have direct access to borrow things. Well, that sounds whatever. Then the whole story comes out, and it's, oh my God, it's a lovely, lovely story. He's a Democrat out of California. He was mayor of Long Beach, and both of his parents, his stepfather and his mother, died due to COVID early in the COVID pandemic. And so he's being sworn in He's a gay man. He's a married gay man, not to be mistaken with another married gay man who has made up some of his history about being an immigrant and so forth. So this guy is Robert Garcia. Don't get it confused. He's immigrated from Peru when he was 5 years old, and so he is swearing in on Superman issue #1 because it was so important to him to see someone as a child who was an immigrant with a sense of justice who had a secret identity. He thought it was because he was gay and he wasn't out when he was a kid, right? And his citizenship certificate and a picture of his mother and stepfather.
It is.
And you're like, oh, okay, this is a beautiful story.
It is traditional for the Library of Congress to loan out articles to be sworn in on. Usually they figure it's going to be a Bible or a Koran, but they lent out the Superman. And as we should point out, in Article 4 of the U.S. Constitution says, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. Thank you very much.
That's good.
Although good luck getting elected president if you don't have at least profess a belief.
If you're not 6 feet tall and you don't have a religion. So this is not the super famous one. When I was a kid, I saw Action Comics #1 because the comic book store owner in my hometown of Eugene, Oregon had just bought it for some crazy amount of money in the 80s. And I went to the store and he was standing there and some other people around and they were like, can we look at it? He's like, sure. He pulls out a briefcase, silver briefcase.
Oh my God.
Click, 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 opens it up. Doesn't let us, touch it, obviously.
Wow.
But we're like, oh, there it is. Well, okay. So this is Superman #1, which came out apparently a year later and is only worth Action Comics is worth millions of dollars and this is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's not quite as valuable, but a very rare and delightful part of Americana. And to remind people that Superman was invented by 2 Jewish kids from New York who had much of their credit and money stolen from them, but after a multi-decade rights and copyright and other battle, their estates finally got some justice.
Joe Shuster
and Jerry Siegel.
Siegel. Yeah, Siegel and Schuster.
Couple Jewish kids. Jewish kids. And that's where Michael Chabon wrote, there's a book called
I love that book.
Cavalier and Clay, right?
Yes.
That's a little bit of a takeoff of that story.
Yeah. I love Chabon. Well, I hope Representative Garcia got to touch it as he got sworn in on it. But I also
hasn't been sworn in yet.
He'll wear white gloves or at least wash his hands and hover over the surface.
Leo, by the time you record, what is this, episode 697? Maybe by episode 800 or 900.
You mean they can't swear in a new Congress until they figure out who the speaker is?
They can't get paid. They can't do anything. Nope.
Nobody is technically in the House at the moment. The Senate works differently. You have to have a speaker, first order of business. They cannot do anything else until it's resolved.
My God. Oh, my God.
They're voting to adjourn right now as we close the show.
Oh, they're not done. They did 6 votes as we record.
We're going to adjourn after the House adjourns. That's right. But
somebody on Mastodon said, I think the Orville Redenbacher stock should go up as people buy more popcorn to watch this roll in the Senate. Wow.
I've got a big vat of Schadenfreude in my basement. It just keeps getting more and more full.
Yeah. You want a little George Santos humor there on the rundown to close it out?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Line 90.
Is he your member of Congress? No.
No, it's Long Island.
It's Long Island. Yeah.
Long Island.
Which nobody says, by the way. But go ahead.
I know.
Nobody says Long Island?
No.
I grew up saying Long Island.
I grew up there.
They say New Haven, though. So there you go.
All by myself. There were pictures of him yesterday sitting in the House because nobody wanted to stand next to him for fear that they would somehow be associated with this guy who apparently lied about everything and is in fact wanted in Brazil for faking a check.
My children, unfortunately, as Mastodon has grown, my children have become obsessed with Twitter, and they tell me all of these stories from Twitter all the time.
Oh, boy.
One of them is that allegedly there's an issue about Santos's immigration process. So he might not even be qualified to serve, but until he's sworn in, Congress.
But there is no mechanism for removing him. So anyway, here he is. Here he is singing a song. I have a feeling this is apocryphal. It's amazing what computers can do these days, isn't it?
Deep fake.
It's very nice.
That's really quite well done.
It is.
That lip sync is excellent, made with Revive.
That's really good.
Wow. I want to know how they do that.
Hey, look at the eyebrows, sir.
Yeah.
At some point, too.
Imagine what you could do with clips from the Twitch shows.
Yeah, at some point you won't have to record this anymore, Leo. You just hit a button
I'm waiting for that day.
He's been talking about it for 3 years.
No, I realized actually, in all sincerity, that I have no friends aside from you guys. So I would be all by myself if I didn't do this show. Yeah, you guys are my best buds. So thank you.
Say back.
Thank you for keeping me company. It's really actually why I started Twit in the early days was I wanted to talk to all the people I worked with at Tech TV, and so it was an excuse to get them together. And honestly, this is my entire social life. So I guess I'll keep doing it for a while unless I want to start singing all by myself. Thank you, Glenn Fleischman, for filling in for Stacy. She'll be back next week. It is always a pleasure to see you. Always much fun at glenn.fun. Anything you want to, you're on many a podcast. I know you do a lot of stuff with The Incomparable.
We just we recorded our best of 2022 episode apparently in 2023. That's how things go sometimes, but
it'd be like that.
Yeah.
You're the
incomparable.com
Mac 911 columnist at Macworld magazine.
A lot of fun.
You created 100 Tiny Type, the 100 Tiny Type Museum in Time Capsules, and wrote and published the book 6 Centuries of Type and Printing. And everybody should go to the news site. Say it again. Shift happens.
Shift.
Yeah, I know. We're a little worried about that F. It's shifthappens.site. And it's beautiful. There's a 3D interactive book you can look at.
Yeah,
so
who did this? This is really well done.
Marcin Wishery, the author of this book. So I'm the midwife. He's the author. He's giving birth to this 10-pound baby. Actually, pretty good, right, Mike? It's a pretty good-sized baby. Actually,
yeah.
He designed this he used some libraries and put this all together. But the site, there's a game, if you want to figure out how well you know a keyboard, he built a game on the site. You can drag, as a timed process where you drag keys onto a Mac layout or a PC layout to see how much you remember from memory. So it's just, and this is 8 years of his life so far. And it's great. It's really well written. It's very entertaining. You'll find the stories about Alger Hiss in it, and a Nobel Prize winning physicist who became the guy who was one of the developers of the concepts behind lasers, became obsessed with creating a laser powered typewriter eraser. Not kidding. Late edition of the book. We had to revise a chapter because Marcin's like, this has to go in.
You will also learn the true identity of Mavis Beacon. So there
Mavis
you go.
Beacon. It's a very interesting story.
Yes, it is. Wow, this is great. A story of the photo on page 688. Yeah, that's a basic program. No, it's It's Fortran.
This goes back. This is even before that. It's been fun because Marcin's been hunting people down for photo rights and things. And at one point, he was trying to find the keyboard that was developed that had the most keys on it, and he had some candidates. I forget which one. I think there might be one in a Polish. He's originally from Poland. There might be one in a museum there. But at one point he's like, I'd like to use this different photo that was taken of this physicist, but he's dead. I'm like, what if you contacted this fellow who is his friend? So he contacts this guy who's also in his 70s but still alive, another Nobel Prize winner. He's like, oh, why don't you? Here's how you reach his daughter. And the daughter's like, sure, you can use a picture of my dad. I mean, it's that kind of journey. You're like,
the amount of work on the photo clearance of this thing must have been awful.
He's done it all. This is like I said, I've been the editor. I'm the crowdfunding manager, working on the printing side of it, and it's his big old baby.
And this is hard. Where the hell does the end go? I can't.
Oh, you're trying to figure out the keyboard? Yeah, quick. It's a timed.
I'm losing.
Without looking at your keyboard.
Wow. QWERT.
In your head, start typing now.
Oh my God, I have no idea where the end is. There it is.
Yeah. He also found a great study. He presents a study in the book which explains that the reason that we use QWERTY is not any of the reasons that have been mentioned. It's that when Scholz, the inventor of the first typewriter that went into production, an early prototype, QWERTY was the best design for key bars not to hit each other. So that was a typewriter that hasn't existed except in prototype for 150 years.
So that's not an apocryphal story, though. I like that.
He did it. He created it, but there's no reason. You can type typewriter on the home keys, right? That was one thing. You only need the top row. And all these stories have been invented invented, or was supposed to slow you down. Not at all. He invented a keyboard there. The type bars didn't hit each other, and then that was a prototype, and the keyboard layout remained, but not the keyboard.
Where's B?
That was back in the days we had a type blind. You're actually typing without
which
seeing.
Letters I don't use. I never use B. So it's
I don't know where the L is.
What is that? Is that a capital P? Oh, I guess it is. God, I have no idea where P is.
There.
You know where the P
Not
is?
there either.
I have no idea.
It's on your
That's
right pinky.
ASTF.
Your right pinky.
I'm not supposed to look at that.
This is great. But you can type. How fast do you type? You probably type like 70, 90 words a minute.
Exactly. Yeah. I can type.
But you don't know. Your brain doesn't have.
No, my brain doesn't know. Yeah.
For the people at home, type the word stewardesses if you're a touch typer and see what your fingers do. Just type that.
No, I know. I can't spell it right, so I'm done.
It's all it's all in
the same area.
Also.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all four fingers. There's words. There's some in the book, but there's words that you can type with left or right hand only. Stewardesses is really hard. If you type it 3 times, your hand will cramp up.
Yeah, because it's all the left hand, and it's just right there.
You're like, it's like, I used to typeset for a magazine called Cascades Magazine, and I would be typing Cascades, and my hand would go, you can't type the word anymore.
Wow. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you so much, Glenn.
Jeff Jarvis is the one and only Leonardtown professor for journalistic innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York. Let's just pick one at random here. Lives in tomato fields. He's lived. He's trapped in the jungle gym of life. He's a disaster in the grocery store. And pizza menu cover boy, which is handwritten.
I thought of somebody else who hated me the other day to add list. I can't remember who
Nickel
it was.
Millionaire, Ray
many.
Kroc. Frank Sinatra called him a bum. It's all here.
Those are the classics.
It's all here. Thank you, Jeff.
Great.
Ant Pruitt, twit.tv/hop, hands-on photography. What's the next hop? Your first hop of the year?
The first one of the year, we're going to take a look at some creative product photography. So stay tuned for that.
And we want to get you
random product and get ready to shoot.
We want to get you answering some photographic questions on our new show, Ask the Tech Guys, which debuts Micah Sargent and I, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern this Sunday. And we're going to bring in as many contributors from Twit as we can to answer questions. But I'll tell you what, I'll find a good question for you and I'll send it to you. And you can either join us live or I'm telling people records. Get out your phone and record the answer.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's going to be. I cannot wait.
You got it. Yeah. You got any letter type questions? Glenn and I can probably do it.
The next time typeface question, variable fonts, good or bad. Next time that comes up, I will get you guys on. What's a flong?
What's along with you?
Don't get him going.
Actually, I think we're going to be kind of topical this week, and I'm going to show you how to move off LastPass onto another password manager.
Doctor.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Oh, doctor.
Can I ask you an uncomfortable question, Leo?
Oh, sure.
If LastPass were still a studio sponsor, when all this
they wouldn't be. And I can tell you why. They came back to us not so long ago, and we turned them down.
Wow.
And it's really simple. When they were our studio sponsor, they really were the best thing out there.
Yeah, they were.
And Steve had vetted them, and I had I had every reason to trust Steve's opinion. I was using it myself. We still use LastPass Enterprise. I was very happy when Bitwarden approached us because I had already moved off LastPass to Bitwarden. Because it's open source, and I'm a big fan. And this is, again, that lesson of centralized is not as good as decentralized. Open is better than proprietary or closed. And so I had already moved to Bitwarden, so I was thrilled. Unfortunately, as an open source project, they don't have much money to spend on advertising. But, whereas LastPass had plenty. But, this is why you got to join Club Twit. Because...
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Of course we wouldn't do it now. Absolutely not. And you know why? The other reason I wouldn't do it, not because, frankly, I think it's probably better to use LastPass than no password manager, right? And there's no reason to think that if you use LastPass today, you would somehow be at risk. But the main reason we wouldn't do it is because we'd lose the trust of our audience, and our advertisements have no value if the audience can't trust that when I say something's good, it's good.
Amen to that.
It would devalue our company too much. So
thank you for that. Which is also why you join the damned club.
Yeah.
Because he turns away people to protect you.
Oh, we do it more often than I should. I'm very glad. We had one crypto advertiser, which was a mistake in hindsight, but it really was for a credit card that paid rewards for crypto. It was BlockFi. And I said, I'm really uncomfortable. Let's not do that. E-cigarettes we've turned down. Gambling. Oh, boy. I think we probably could have made a lot of money with, betting apps.
I bet.
But I just, there's some things I'm just not comfortable with. And thank God Lisa doesn't overrule me. She says, okay.
Well, what about those ads for pure uncut Everclear? I
love it.
A little on the.
I don't mind. Edge. I've actually thought about this. At one point, I think we did wine ads for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Wine clubs and stuff. We had a beer. Remember that we had a beer thing that you could like.
It was a little kegerator.
It was a little kegerator.
Was it USB run?
Cool. No, but the idea was that you would join a club and they'd send you a little little
kegerator thing.
Well, that's cute.
What do they call it? Don John? What are they? A little thing of beer.
A pony?
It was before my time, but I remember seeing the sponsor on the show.
That's great.
And there are a lot of people, somebody in the chat room saying, well, don't forget you accepted manscaping. I still use Manscaped. There's nothing wrong.
We don't want to know.
There's nothing wrong with keeping your body sleek.
For the swimming. That's why.
Hey, if I advertise it, I use it, man.
When you got hair in your pit, turn to twit.
That's a slogan we will not be using. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Aunt. We do twit every Wednesday afternoon. You see, it's when we get together with friends that we have the most fun. I hope you'll join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC. You can watch or listen live at live.twit.tv. Chat with us at irc.twit.tv. Open to all. And if you're a Club Twit member, of course, you have your own special private chat where your feet will be massaged and you will be taken care of with a fine cocktail in the Discord.
By Ant himself.
Ant will make you a little something. And then, yes, I'm keeping talking so we get to the 3-hour mark. It's very important. We have every show go to the point where you actually have to run to the bathroom. Oh, yeah, we got the GizFizz coming up. Get on-demand shows at twit.tv/twig. Subscribe in your favorite podcaster application. There is, in fact, a YouTube channel dedicated to the show, believe it or not. All of that, usual. Thank you for your support, and we will see you next time on This Week in Google. Now, stay tuned. The first GizFizz for a Wednesday evening is coming up next. It's Fizz time as soon as I do all the business stuff.
The world is changing rapidly. So rapidly, in fact, that it's hard to keep up. That's why Micah Sargent and I, Jason Howell, talk with the people making and breaking the tech news on Tech News Weekly every Thursday. They know these stories better than anyone, so why not get them to talk about it in their own words? Subscribe to Tech News Weekly, and you won't miss a beat every Thursday at twit.tv.